Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in tonight. Why? Well, because we're fun. We are fun. To our American audience, especially on the East Coast, happy 4th of July. And to those of you on the West Coast like me who have to wait, well, you got 3 hours. How about that? Jeff Harman is our guest tonight. Everything from astrology, paranormal, and UFO is on the table. We're going to have a great show. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you. Yeah, we do. We sure do. And it starts off with Tim Mothman and his goatee with the gold medal position. Race fan with a silver, Christine Lynn with a bronze medal tonight. Then we go to Canna Chef Chris, Michael Morris, Lil Cam over on Twitch. He's already bench pressed 48 cases of beer to prepare for the 4th of July. 48 cases. Laura Lobbs, W. Decker, Area 53 is here. W. Decker, Area 53. We'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Karen in the Woo Train, Brown Dwarf. How you both doing? Hi, JSCO. Nice to have you here. Lee the Bee, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Little Timmy in the backwoods. How's it going? Eternity Eternal, Nick Adkins, what's happening? Hello, Noble Patrick. How are you? Deidre, how are you this evening? And who's next? Cosmic Joe. Camille James Harman is here in the chat room as well. Camille James Harman will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Let's continue on with our roll call. Say hello to Deanna Ann, Kitty Cattywhack. Thank you both for joining us. Thomas Rock, T-Bone, my man. How's the Pride of New Westminster doing? Wave that New Westminster flag for the rest of the audience, if you don't mind. All right, moving on. There's Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Scrolling on down, we have Kurt M. Good to have you here. And who's next on our list? Well, let's take a look here. Mr. Cowley. What's happening, Mr. Cowley? AZIC9, welcome to SOR Chat. Operation Shutdown, Melvin from Mars. Big J, how y'all doing? And let's scroll on down and say hello to Swamp Gas Jenkins. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. And let's go on. Pissing me off, Evan Walters? Pissing me off. For sure. All right. Let's move it on down. Still pissing me off, Evan Walters. Anyways, moving on down, we say hello to Algaray over on Twitch. Yep. 500 jumping jacks before tonight's show to warm us up. Algaray is a machine. Absolutely a machine. Paramarv, what's happening? Warden Dragon, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here. And it looks like we're caught up. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. And let me tell you, we got a great show for you tonight. as we're going to be talking to Jeff Harman. We're going to get everything from astrology to paranormal, UFOs, aliens, and everything going on. Yeah, as we await the arrival, still like 2 weeks now, for Bill WD-40 to come on in and lube us up for tonight's show. I hope he didn't run out of lube, because that would be really, really bad. All right, let's continue on with our roll call. Michael Fontaine, how you doing? Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Jamie Cotterill, how's it going? Hi there, Necessary Dialogue. Good to have you here. Susan, a.k.a. Mama Susan, good to see you. As we got about 20 seconds to go before we launch. And let me see here. The super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you can always shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You're going to want to wear our stuff out in public. It just feels good to do that. It's that time of the night where I say, I need a favor, everyone. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a fantastic show tonight. A little bit of UFOs, a little bit of astrology, and some paranormal action. Jeff Harman is here sharing his 47 years of experience with the weird and strange. I think this guy actually, I may not be correct on this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I really do believe this guy, after 47 years, has many pairs of tinfoil underwear. I think he does. I'll have to ask his wife, Camille. I know her a little bit better, but we're going to find out. All right, let's get to it. Jeff Harman is a second-generation astrologer, paranormal researcher, and spiritual consultant with 47 years of experience. He has solved many paranormal cases involving haunted dwellings, UFO-related events, and possession. He has cleared people, homes, and commercial spaces experiencing negative spiritual attachments and has assisted treasure hunters in deciding if, when, and where to dig. He has also been contracted for special research projects. If you want to find out more, it's Jeff Harman. That's HARMAN.com. First time on Spaced Out Radio, Jeff Harman. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
I love that. You got that sexy radio voice. You do.
Yeah, it's the coffee. It's all it is. It's just the coffee.
Yeah.
I got 100-mile coffee. You don't blink for 100 miles.
You know what's funny about you just saying that? I actually live in a town called 100 Mile.
Really?
That's
Wow,
true.
that's cool. I never heard of that town. That's up in Canada? Wow.
Yeah, way up north where literally the moose keep their butter up in the trees just to make sure they have enough for bread in the morning. That's how I live around here, but it's just the way it is. Jeff, I got to know your wife, Camille, a couple of years ago at UFO Con in San Francisco. And just a wonderful, beautiful woman that has been your rock and your sidekick. She told me the story about how you met. It was totally coincidence, and that you two have been together literally ever since that first date. And, I got to tell you, man, you're a lucky son of a gun, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And when she told me about how you're into this spiritual journey of your own, helping people involved in paranormal, supernatural events, UFOs, aliens, and everything in between, you've even seen a Sasquatch. Man, you've run the gamut over the decades.
It's been a blur, I'll say that. Yep, but a lot of fun. A lot of different paranormal events, which has been exciting. I actually enjoy it.
Go back to when you were a kid 47 years ago. How did this all start for you on this journey?
It was actually a lot longer than that. Actually, it was in the early 60s. I had my first real astral travel event. I had some little bunny rabbits and also some guinea pigs. And the guinea pig, I had a dream. I was lying in bed. I was pretty young. And I jumped out of bed. I had a dream that the guinea pig died. And I ran down, and my bedroom was like 3 stories up. When I got down there, the guinea pig was laying exactly as I had just dreamt it. And I told my mom about it, being a little kid, we gave the guinea pig a burial and all that. She said, "You astral traveled." I said, "I dreamed this exactly, even me running down the stairs and I jump out of bed." She says, "You astral traveled." So, I had a lot of things happen to me when I was very, very young. And a lot of it I can't fully remember, but I do remember a lot of beings and strange paranormal events. And I've had a lot of things happen to me. I've had motorcycles stopped. Literally, I grew up in northern Wisconsin, a little bit south of where you are, bud, but it's real cold up there. Very close to the upper peninsula of Michigan, and also where the Lake Superior is, and very, very far up in the woods. And in the 70s, I was driving, and I had a 650 Bonneville and knocked it out cold. And I actually had that happen where the bike wouldn't start, arc the battery, everything. And the next morning it started up perfectly. So, and I used to see animals running at night from something it was afraid of. And then I'd look up in the sky and there'd be all these lights going up and down in the woods. So it's really interesting. I would actually chart UFOs. They were triangular craft and football shaped craft. I would chart them on a piece of paper in the 70s. My uncle gave me a telescope. And the interesting thing about these things is they're very hazy. You can't make them out. There's almost like an obscure light around them. So it was an interesting journey up there. And I still see stuff down here. I'm in California, the land of the fruits and nuts, and I still see a lot of stuff. I just saw something very recently out in Malibu, 2 craft. Actually saw 3 craft out there. And one was the most unusual I've ever seen. I was on a motorcycle heading down to PCH, and this long, cylindrical, almost red plastic looking like tube was sticking down out of the sky. And it was between the ocean shore and the PCH. And I looked, it was very large too. And I looked and I just went, wow, what the heck is that? So, there's so much going on this planet that I believe the military knows about. I believe the government knows about it. It's kept very secret. And I think they live among us, and I think they come in and out of here a lot. I was talking to one Marine where literally he said, we track these things coming out of this huge cavern just off the coast of Malibu.
Oh, right, wow.
Yeah, there's a huge cavern underneath.
That's a little familiar considering what happened in 2004 with the Nimitz.
Right. I actually taught a class at a college back in the 80s. And one of the students told me, he says, yeah, my dad's an admiral. He says, they take submarines all the way underneath the whole California coast, almost all the way up to Salt Lake City, Utah. And I said, wow, that's interesting. He let that one out of the bag.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Jeff, for you, as you've adventured on this journey, why was it important for you to help people, to make sure that they were okay, those who didn't understand truly what was going on?
Well, I think, what's interesting about that is in the 70s, in the mid 70s, it's actually been almost 50 years now, my mother exposed me to astrology. And I actually, at the time I was driving, I had girlfriends, and she would peg my girlfriends to the T. And she started telling me all about their charts. And I said, what do you mean their charts? And she said, oh, I got their astrology charts. And I said, come on, that stuff doesn't work, does it really? And she said, yeah, you got to check it out and really, become familiar with it. And when I did, it wasn't a large jump for me anyhow, because, I had a lot of experience with many different things growing up. But that one, you always hear the sun sign stuff. But when she really started explaining how accurate it was in the personality traits, and also more importantly, the cycles that we all go through, I was really blown away. And that's when I got involved. And I said, wow, this is way past chance. And then during the 80s, I was always paralleling that in my life, comparing it to a lot of people that I knew. And I was studying a lot of astrology through the 80s and really got into it in the late 80s, early 90s. That's when it really started kicking in. And then I started researching the ancient astrology, the stuff that comes up out of Egypt, Chaldea, Greece, and what they call traditional astrology. And then I got into the Vedic astrology and Naadi astrology, which again comes from the very ancient, you could say, Vedantic and Indian, astrology, which is much, much different than the West. It's a sidereal type of astrology. And I've had a lot of fun. I probably studied just about every type of astrology you can imagine over the last, almost half a century. And it's never ending. And what got me into helping people was I see how interested people are in it. And even the skeptics who say, well, I don't believe in this stuff. And then I would start showing them cycles. And I go, well, you're right. That's when this happened, that happened, so on and so forth. And you can see past lives. You can see karmic ties. And, probably the last 25 to 30 years, I've really gotten into it heavy. Definitely the last 25 to 28 years, where it kind of found me, and it's really has helped a lot of people. And, I've actually had a lot of parents with children who, have had some real difficult goes with it, and medications, etc. And we would find that there were certain cycles going on in the chart that would clear up within a certain amount of time. And I've had some people even elect to forego certain procedures and or medications. Again, I don't give anybody medical advice, but the parents opted for that, and things cleared up right after the cycles in astrology showed that it would. So it's really been a journey. And location astrology too is another one that's absolutely stunning, absolutely blows my hair back. And I have clients from all over the world, and it's just kept coming and coming and coming. And probably right around 2010, it picked up even more. And I started getting on a lot of radio shows. And of course, that was before the podcast boom, which is what we're into now. And, we'd get on shows like Coast to Coast and many other shows. And it was a lot of fun. And everyone would always say to me, Jeff, what do you think of the Mayan calendar? And I would always say, I don't see a thing in the Mayan calendar. I always warned them, so watch out from 220 forward, because that's when the trigger hits. And that's exactly what's happened. If you look at COVID, if you look at even the government is now beginning to admit a little bit of disclosure. They haven't disclosed anything quite directly, but they're opening up about it. And I always knew that 2020 would be a major trigger point in civilization, because there was a 240-year cycle of Jupiter and Saturn joining right on the winter solstice of 2020. And nobody seems to mention it in the astrology community, but let me tell you, it was right on. And those cycles go all the way back to the Great Flood of Noah, and I think even farther back than that. But they depict when things really shift. The one prior was right when this country, speaking of 4th of July, was formed. And this was right before the Revolutionary War, which I believe precipitated the advent of the modern industrial revolution. And 2020 forward has now ushered in a very, very high tech, and I believe a much higher vibration of consciousness, even though we still got the same rumblings of war and insanity going on in the world. But this is a time when I think we're going to see humanity really start to accelerate over this next 200 years. Particularly the next 240 years, because I think that's truly when the Aquarian age begins. Because a lot of astrologers say, oh, we're in the Aquarian age. I don't believe that happens for about another 220 to 230 something years from now. I could be wrong, but that's the math I get.
Somehow I don't think I'm going to make it to find the end of that, what actually happens.
Well, actually, you might. I don't think any of us die. And that's another lie that's been told. I mean, we are really spiritual beings having a physical experience. And that has been, I think, one of the biggest crimes against humanity is to not have more light shed on that issue.
No, and I can understand that. It's funny you bring up the Mayan calendar because, everybody was predicting, much like Y2K, that this was the end of the world. This was it. The Mayans finished on this particular date. I mean, nobody ever thought about the fact that, there was leap years in between. When we switched over the calendars, and they were still on the ancient Gregorian calendar when they wrote that out, and so on and so forth. But that's never mentioned. Absolutely,
you've got
never.
The Julian, the Gregorian. You keep going back. They're that's why we get leap years. The calendars don't work. They work, but they're not linear. And that's because we're dealing. Time is an illusion. When you really look at time, yes, time absolutely exists. We got to pay the bills in the first of the month, but when you really look at cycles, is much more what we've got going on. And I have to say, the astronomy, which is what modern people call astrology, and of course you got this big division now between astronomers and astrologers, when really the ancients were considered astronomers. And it really is astronomy. When you look at true ancient astrology, particularly Vedic astrology and many of the other stuff, it is absolutely astronomy. It's just extrapolated to human life and events on Earth.
But one thing I wanted to ask you about the Mayan calendar is it was around then that people actually started learning about the Mandela effect and whether or not that had something to do with it. And maybe that was a time change or some sort of time slip where we went into a different atmosphere where things that we normally thought were true had now changed. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the most accurate stuff that I've seen is the ancient Vedantic stuff that's in the Rig Veda, the Upanishads, the Arthur Veda. And what these are ancient texts that talk about the cycles of the precession of the Earth and the solar system around the central sun. And that seems to happen somewhere between every 25,700 years or somewhere close to 25,900 years. So no one knows exactly. I certainly don't. But it's something just short of 26,000 years. And they call it the Great Year. And we go through these ages. And according to the best documents that I've seen, we might have really descended into the sewer in terms of consciousness somewhere around the 1st to 5th century AD. And we've been slowly eking up out of it. And right around the 1700s, we started moving back into what they call the Bronze Age. And we're going to be in that until about 4000 AD. And then we hit the Silver Age from that up to about 7000 AD, maybe 8. And then, if I'm wrong on my timing, I don't have the diagram in front of me. But then we hit a Golden Age. And see, we're so programmed into our daily lives, and rightly so. We all look in the mirror. We get older every single year. And, we got our bills to pay and we deal with a mundane world. But when we really look at the cycles of time and how much stuff has been hidden, especially in the history books, you look at Tartaria, there's so many things that have been hidden from us. And I think what's going on this planet, it may be a lot more like Men in Black than we know. I mean, you look at the stuff with Admiral Byrd going under, back in the 40s and 50s, down under Antarctica and all the stuff that's happening down there. Very, very interesting stuff. And I think our government knows a lot more than they're ever going to say. And I think this also gets into a lot of the dissension we see on this world. I think there's a lot of very good and very evil things going on here. And some of it is interblended with demonic forces, angelic forces, and extraterrestrials. And there seems to be some pretty good evidence to that. And it's kept very, very hidden. And I really believe that right now we are hitting a cycle In fact, I've been talking, if anybody goes to my YouTube podcast, it's Jeff Harman, Astrologer, on YouTube. We've been putting out a lot of videos lately, and we're talking about a cycle that just started literally June 1st of this year, 2024. And that is every 84 years, the planet Uranus goes around the solar system. That's a fancy word called its synodic cycle. It's just its orbital time, right? And if you leapfrog back 84 years from right now, you have the 7-year period of World War II. You see, Uranus spends about 7 years in a sidereal constellation. And you have to do this in the sidereal zodiac. And if you go 84 years before that, you're going to get the Civil War. If you go 84 years before that, you're going to get the Revolutionary War of this country. If you go 84 years before that, just keep leapfrogging back 84 years, you will find so much dissension that happens during society. And this is because revolutions happen and or disruption in society happens that brings in new energies. And when you look at what had happened the last time, of course, World War II, we had the entire world at war. In fact, 84 years ago, this is right when Hitler was going into France, the fall of France, the Battle of Dunkirk, all that stuff. And of course, we had the Pearl Harbor, brought the United States fully into it. But we're in a time period right now that I hope doesn't happen like it's happened every 84 years. And that is Uranus is now in the sidereal constellation. It's called the Pleiades. Many people have heard of that, but astrologers don't know that as the sidereal constellation of Taurus. And there's actually 7 sisters in that. And that's the ancient Greek legend about Atlas. Remember, he held up the heavens and then he saved his daughters and turned them into stars. There's several variations, but this is an ancient legend about the 7 sisters of Hades, which is in the first 6 to 7 degrees of sidereal Taurus. This is right where Uranus is right now. And look at the insanity we're hearing in the world. We're hearing all the rumblings in the Middle East, Iran, Israel, all this stuff cooking. We've got China, we've got Taiwan, all rattling sabers. And most importantly, we have the issue with Russia and Ukraine. And of course, we're pouring money into Ukraine and faster than water is poured into a river. So this is a very dangerous time. And you wonder, geez, how could this happen? You expect consciousness to be raising, you expect things to be getting better, and yet these astronomical cycles that people call astrology are happening. And I can tell you, as we move forward into this summer, particularly into the end of the year, it's a very dangerous time. And I hope it doesn't happen, but we are in cycles that, if you look in the past, have always brought dissension and trouble and crazy attacks during these times. And this is really strong between now and September, and particularly this month. We've got Mars crossing into the sidereal sign of Taurus right on the 12th of July. And then it's going to sweep over one of the most evil stars in the sky, known as Caput Algol. And anybody can look that up on the internet. That's called the head of Satan. It's a very nasty little star. And when Uranus and Mars together go over that, that's like flipping matches over an open can of gasoline. Things can happen. And we've got also the United States birth chart is in what we call a Pluto return. Now, Pluto takes 245 to 250 years. And how old are we? This birthday of the United States, we're 248 years old. And Pluto has made its round, and it's crossed the first time the Pluto return was back this last January of 2024. It's coming back again right in the middle of July, right around the 16th, 15th to 16th. And it makes one final conjunction to the United States Pluto at the end of this year. To give you an idea of what Pluto returns mean, the Roman Empire was destroyed on a Pluto return, or it dissolved, if you will. So we can survive this, but we might.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I apologize for cutting you off. We do have to go to commercial break at the bottom of the hour. Jeff Harman breaking down the numbers and the cycles. patterns can be so interesting, can't they? We're going to continue with Jeff Harman. JeffHarman.com is his website. Check it on out. Spaced Out Radio, second half hour. It's coming up right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. That's a good start, Jeff. Good start.
All right, bud. That sounds good. I'm just going to reset my camera. I'll run to the bathroom. I'll be right back, okay?
All right, my man.
Okay.
All right. How are y'all doing out there in SOR land tonight? We having fun? We're having fun. Hello, aloha, Dave. Polly Rodman. F.U. Zaddy over on Listener Land. I know you're listening. We're trying to get you back. We're trying to figure out how to do that. Jeff, your hair and beard combination look absolutely stunning tonight.
Oh, well, thank you. You look marvelous, too.
Yeah, I've got a mop going on top of my head. All over the place, kind of spongy tonight.
That's all right. I just got off a motorcycle. That's how I got here in time. I had a air conditioner breakdown today, and I had to deal with that. So I was working with the guy up on a roof. So,
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fun.
Oh, if I wasn't on a motorcycle, I would have got here. Trust me. Down here, the traffic is beyond insanity.
Right?
A car is 2 hours. A motorcycle is a half an hour. That's literally how much you cut traffic down here.
All right, we got about 3.5 minutes.
All right. So where else you want to go with this?
We're just gonna go wherever it goes naturally, man.
Okay, good.
I don't script anything.
Yeah, me neither.
You know? I figure after almost, let's see, when did I graduate? 26 years ago, I graduated broadcast school.
All right.
I figured that I should know what I'm doing by now, and if I don't, I get the.
That was what, in the late 90s, early 2000, yeah?
98 I graduated.
Wow, great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a studio years ago. I had we did a lot of commercials, did all kinds of stuff, industrial films, a lot of stuff. I actually worked with Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and then I got to work with George Carlin. George Carlin was the best. I loved him.
Oh man, what was that like?
It was fun, let me tell you. I got to record him in the studio. That was really fun.
Oh man,
I always tell you, I was surprised she didn't put it in there, but I'm the only astrologer on the planet, I think, that keeps his clients in filing cabinets given to me by George.
Right? I'll tell you.
That.
Think of what you will about George Carlin, but you know what? He was a comedic prophet.
He really was. He really was. And I'm going to tell you, that guy was smart. When I met him, I've never had anybody scan me. I mean, he didn't just look at me; he scanned me. I mean, I was like, "Okay, buddy, somebody's definitely home," you know. So, yeah, he was an interesting guy.
I bet.
I would have liked to have given him an IQ test. I don't think he would have rung the bell. I think he'd have put a hole in it. I really do.
Good chance. Very good chance.
Mm-hmm.
Totally see that happening.
So where are you located up there in Canada?
I'm located in a little town about 5.5 hours northeast of Vancouver called 100 Mile House.
Wow. Wow. Now that's awesome country up there. Wow. You're north of the Puget Sound.
Oh, way north.
Yeah. I got a client who he owns a bunch of mines up that way. He's got a ranch, this gorgeous country up that way. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful up here. And we got the trifecta happening. We got a bunch of cryptids out here. We're right along the old Gold Rush Trail, which is extremely haunted. And this area also has a high concentration of UFO sightings as well. Give me a minute here because I got to reintroduce you. Thank you to T-Bone for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciated, T-Bone. Thank you. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. And make sure you hit up Sweet Robbie G. It's his birthday today. Here we go. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we're talking all sorts of weird things with Jeff Harman tonight. If you're just tuning in, you missed out on a great first half hour. We're going to stick with the astrology here for just a moment. But first, I want to remind all of you that our archives are always free. Why? Because I want them that way. This is my show. I can do whatever I want. That's keep the archives free for you. We're not like a lot of those other radio shows and podcasts that try and nail you for like $6.99 a month just so you could hear a replay. No, they're free on YouTube, any major podcast network as well. The only thing I want in return, everyone, just hit subscribe or ring that bell. That's it. I think it's a pretty fair trade. I hope you do too. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. JeffHarman.com is his website. As Jeff comes in, we're talking astrology, numeric patterns. How do they tie to our lives, our civilizations? We're going to get into some hauntings and UFOs in just a little bit. But Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
I love numbers. I love patterns, which is kind of ironic considering I went to college to get away from numbers and patterns. That's why I went into journalism. But here we are. Numbers never lie. Numbers always tell a story. Numbers are what makes the world go round, right down to the binary code. You have studied the numbers. You've studied the stars. You've been able to combine the two to show patterns. What is the most impressive pattern you've been able to find?
Well, there's a lot of patterns. I really think the whole universe is just really deep numerology and patterns that are actually bled down through angels. One of the things that I do a lot, in fact, if anybody goes to my YouTube channel, you'll see oftentimes I make angel pendants for people. And this is literally the angel that is formed on the eastern horizon at the first breath when we're tied into the body. They actually say, and the Egyptians paid a lot of attention to this, that we're attached to the embryo at conception and by silver cord. And then when the gestation period is done, we exit mom's womb. And the first breath is when the spirit, psyche, and soul is permanently tied to the body. So I don't know if we cut out there, but at first breath, the soul is permanently tied to the body.
Right.
And what's interesting is the eastern horizon at the longitude and latitude that you're born. Most astrologers will tell you that's your ascendant, right? But the ancients would take and order each degree of the Aramaic and Hebrew letters around. You could do this with other letters too, but I only know how to do it with those two languages. And literally, you have the inner positions of the solar system's inner 7 planets forms the name of the guardian angel at the celestial imprint of the soul. And this is really interesting about that because Naadi astrology, spelled Naadi, some people spell it with one A, but that is very ancient. Many people may have heard of the Naadi palm leaves, where you can actually look up your name and your thumbprint and you can see the path of your soul. And Naadi astrology is profound. And it literally says that when we incarnate at first breath, literally that is the synchronization of time and karma. And the numerology of the guardian angel is fascinating. And I actually take and give people sheets with these pendants that actually, it'll blow your hair back. Like they'll say, oh, you were a carpenter, or you might have been a textile worker, or you were from this lineage of certain tribes in the Bible, which is really, you can't make this stuff up. And this goes back into the Sanskrit and Tamil and Dravidian languages too. Very interesting stuff. And talk about numerology. I think the entire universe is numerology. They actually say our soul is created hundreds and hundreds of dimensions above the universes, and that there's 49 dimensions and 49 subdimensions in each of these worlds. I actually have diagrams that I show on my YouTube channel a lot about that. And talk about numerology. It's beyond comprehension. It's absolutely beyond comprehension. They claim there's 49 parallel universes and 49 subdimensions in each one. And I mean, I can't balance my checkbook, let alone come up with comprehending that. And then they say in the astral planes, there's 49 dimensions and 49 subdimensions as well. And it's deep stuff. And when we exit these bodies, we actually go into these different dimensions. And many of us will reincarnate. Many of us won't. It depends on how many times the soul is incarnated. And I think the soul is attached to these portals we call planets and stars. And talk about numerology. It's beyond calculation and comprehension how complex I think it gets. And this is where we have been blocked from remembering that. They actually say this little mark we have right here is the mark that makes us forget. And the older we get, the more we forget anyhow. But the bottom line is we are blocked from seeing these past incarnations and connections to the soul root. Some people can see it. And I talk a lot about this stuff on my YouTube channel because I think it's really important. And I think the more we advance into these ages, we'll start remembering again. There's a lot of old souls who are here waking up, and it happens incarnation by incarnation. So it's all, I think, very complex numerology.
How do you tie numerology and astrology to what is happening in the paranormal and supernatural realms? Do they even coexist?
It does in a different way. Like, for instance, when someone calls me up for a clearing or they say their house is haunted, I got a lot of stories where I use a technique that's called interrogation astrology. Now, a lot of people will know that as horary. That's the Latinized term. And if you go into India, they call it prashna. And what does that mean? Well, that's exactly what we use in treasure hunting or any type of divinational question. You don't need your birth chart. You literally ask a question. And I've always been blown away at how that system works. I was first exposed to it in the 80s. And I thought, wow, how can this work? So literally your consciousness is an interactive consciousness with the universe. And that's hard to believe, but it is. I mean, I've had people say to me, they've lost items and say, oh, I'm never going to find it. And I'll cast a chart, the Lord of the Second, which is, numerology comes into astrology through geometry. See, for instance, if you see a 0 degree, that's conjunction, that's 0 degrees, but a 60-degree aspect, which is something that is 60, longitudinal degrees apart, means a friendly aspect. It mixes and blends. If it's square, it means a no. That's a 90-degree aspect. If it's a 120-degree aspect, that's really good. That means things will smooth and flow. If it's a 180-degree aspect, not going to happen. That's actually sometimes called an aspect of perfect hatred. I get this all the time. People will call me up and say, hey, I think I'll win this lawsuit. Or what'll happen when I see the signifactors, when that's a fancy word that just means the querent is the one person asking the question, and the other person is the one you're in the lawsuit or fight or divorce or whatever it is. If the 7th house lord in astrology, which is your opponent, is in hard aspect, you're going to war, and they won't settle until someone else adjudicates. So you can even see the judge in this. So it is a very complex form of numerology. And then there's another type of astrology called electional astrology. You might say, well, what is that? Well, electional astrology is the reverse of that. You're picking an auspicious time to take a trip, to get married, to start, buy a house, sell a house. I do that all the time. People are moving so much right now with the economics. Everybody's panicking and wanting to move to different states. So I will literally have them get the contract, and I give them a good time to sign it, and either DocuSign it and send it off, or slide it across the table to the realtor, and the house sells much better. And we've seen a lot of times when the house wasn't put on the market at good times, it doesn't sell very easy. So this is really complex numerology that is actually using you could say, the celestial influences. So numerology is really deep. It's in everything. I mean, when you look at it, the atomic structures and in quantum physics, many people talk about the 11 dimensions. Well, when you talk about 49 dimensions and 49 subdimensions, that's some deep stuff. And it's really complex numerology is what it is. It's the whole universe is divine energy that is held in very organized states, way beyond any of our comprehensions. You think about it. Who's thinking right now about your blood pressure? Who's thinking about the digestive processes and all the healing processes in the body? It's divine magic. And really, the earth, I call it the soul cauldron. It's where spirit becomes manifest. And there's really, and whether you're talking about the human kingdom, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, or the mineral kingdom, it's all vibrating energy. I mean, when you look at, there's an ancient text called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a fancy word that just means the book of formation, where time and space actually happens. And this is where everything solidifies. And really, really amazing, when you start looking into creation itself. I mean, it's pretty divine. I mean, no doctor can tell us why we're drawing breath. They certainly can tell us that we're drawing breath. But when you think about the essence and the forces and the pranic energy of life, quite magical. And astrology looks into not only when you're born in your birth chart, but you can actually look at consciousness interacting with a question. And I mean, I've got literally tens and thousands of those. They're stunning.
So is the answer 42? Like the old saying from The Ultimate Question, from Life, Universe, and Everything, from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Is it 42?
Well, there seems to be a lot of numbers that are very sacred. 42, 24, 72, I mean, every number 7 is a very sacred number. There's 7 holes in your head, 7 days of the week, 7 halls of heaven. 7 times 7 is 49. It's a 7-year itch, right? So really powerful. They actually say a child will move 7 times before it's born. There's actually, in C-section, 7 layers to the uterus. There's so much magic to numerology. I mean, we could sit here and talk about that forever. It's really mind-boggling, and it's beyond human comprehension when you think about it. Creation is absolutely stunning. And I think humanity is beginning to see that. I've actually been working a lot with AI in development of some products, and you see just how smart humans are. AI will never be like us. AI is certainly logical, but I mean, we are spiritual beings that deduce and have emotional feelings. I always love the movie Terminator 2, where Schwarzenegger's character at the end, remember, he said, I know now why you cry. He says, I can never do that. So I got to be destroyed. And that was a great line in a script for the message of what machines are going to become as time goes on, because we're right on the precipice of it. And I actually predicted that. I said from 220 forward, yeah, there's been technology before that, but now we're seeing it take off like a rocket. And that's because we're in a new era. It's very powerful. I believe George Washington and many of the founding forefathers of this country certainly knew that. They were very aware in the Masonic orders of these great ages and cycles. And it's been handed down since definitely the Chaldean and Egyptian and Greek times and before. And I know because we've got the text to prove it. Very ancient stuff. And it's all numerology and cycles. It's all cycles, So years are not as accurate as the celestial influential and how they cycle around the sun.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. My question to you is this, though. Should we fear numbers? Should we fear astrological cycles? Because if we live by them, then many people become paranoid that they're waiting for the next disaster. They're waiting for the next war. They're waiting for, hope to God that's bad things don't happen. That next earthquake, that next Mount St. Helens eruption. We tend to live paranoid a lot.
Well, we're paranoid with astrology or without it. I don't think astrology is to blame for that one. But yeah, I mean, the religions went that route too. It's a work of the devil, right? And it's interesting how, the Pope in Rome still takes a bath in a bathtub surrounded by the zodiac. So, it's like anything. A gun is evil in an evil person's hand. A gun is a good thing in a good person's hand. So it's common sense. It's all how you apply anything. And superstition is going to be superstition. It's always going to remain that. And I think when people use it for good intentions and you don't fear life, it's kind of, I always like to use the analogy of driving a car. In fact, I love motorcycles. I drive a motorcycle. And I got to tell you, my first motorcycle was in 1967. That'll give you an idea how many times I've wiped out. And I love it. My grandfather, who was a police officer, actually brought my first motorcycle. Him and my dad came down the stairs, and I had a little whizzer, and I love it. But they're dangerous, and when I drive a motorcycle, I'm always watching my environment. It's energy. You pay attention to everything coming at you, or you'll be dead, right? Just like when we drive a car. Well, if you're going to use astrology, that's the same way I look at it. It's not superstition. I really believe you can change. The most powerful thing in the universe is human intellect and the way we react. This is what they teach us in training, martial arts, military, etc., is how you react totally equals its outcome, right? So sometimes very challenging situations can actually be a time when we grow. And, I think there's a lot of people doing astrology that have to be very aware of that. It's one of the things I'm very careful about. I always tell people this is energy and you are the driver. How you react to it is everything. So, yeah, I think when you look at, just like what you were talking about earlier, the world right now is in a cycle that's very dangerous, but there's ways to counteract that too. And hopefully we are evolving. I did a study. It was pretty cool. There's a guy named George Parks. He's gone now. He used to be the head of the MUFON for Tucson, Arizona. George was a great guy. I loved him. And Jim Delatoso. I know a lot of the old UFO guys, Dr. Lear. There was many of them. And what happened is he said, Jeff, we want to do a study on was there any astrological phenomena that would correspond to some of these events, like Travis Walton. We've heard of Minot Air Force Base. This is where the commanders actually said, hey, we had light orbs around nuclear installations, and afterwards the stuff stopped working. So just because we're in a challenging cycle doesn't mean it has to happen. What it means is if humanity wakes up and becomes a little more conscious, maybe we can avoid it. That's like driving down the road in traffic and saying, well, nobody's going to mess with me, right? Well, being aware, if you see the Mack truck pulling out in front of a red light or somebody running a red light, you hit the brakes, you move, you do whatever you do to counteract it. It's our reaction. That's everything. And, I have a lot of clients who are psychiatrists and psychologists, and I really enjoy that field. And the reason I do is because they're helping people too, to unravel a lot of the programming that we all have since we were spanked on the rear end in the delivery room. We all have impressions. We're emotional beings. We tend to emotionalize things. And the people who can rationalize it out are going to fare a lot better than the ones who can't. And one of the interesting things that we compare a lot of notes on is cycles. And again, if astrology wasn't demonized like it has been by the religions in so many ways, we might find that's a wonderful tool. Here's a great point in case. I had a father, really wonderful father, and his son was really having some bad trouble. And the counselors at school said, we really need to get this kid on medication. So he called me and him and his wife both, and they said, "Hey, what do you see?" I said, "Well, I see your son." Gave me the birth chart and all that, has this progression, but it's only going to last to here. It's actually going to get worse between here and here. It was about a 6-month period. And I said, I can't give you medical advice. I said, if, you want to follow the doctor's orders, medicate him, do what you got to do. I said, but I can tell you that this energy will be gone right about here. So what was fascinating about that situation is they elected not to medicate their child. And I've had several cases like this. And again, I can't give medical advice. I mean, if parents want to follow doctor's orders, please do, but he took this in stride and said, if this is going to end right here, he said, why don't I want to put my child on this strong medication when, in 6 or 7 months, if we nurture him along and we become very aware of his condition, I explained the energies in the astrology. And that's what they did. And guess what? The father called me up just after that event. And he said, I can't believe it. He says, it's just, you wouldn't even recognize it. It's just gone. I said, yep. And see, this happens to adults. On the way home tonight, my son is going through a really challenging time. And he's 22 years old, going on 23. And I warned him, it's a holiday week. And I said, buddy, you have an aspect happening that's not going to happen again for 28 and a half years. It's very powerful. It's called a progressed moon conjuncting Neptune. And I said, I know everybody's going to want to stick a beer in your hand, but I said, be very careful. I said, do not drink and drive. And I said, be careful. And he says, I feel it. He says, I feel so confused and worried. I said, that's the moon on the Neptune. So if we get used to these energies and take them without superstition, but for what they are, they're just energies. They can really be a navigational tool that because it's all about energy. We're dealing with energy from the day we're born, the day we exit these bodies, and the more we understand it without superstition, it's like science, I mean, they used to think electricity was, taboo. Well, look what we've done with electricity. We wouldn't be speaking right now if everybody still was superstitious of electricity, because we're sitting across the continent right now having a radio conference here. And it's amazing what technology's brought us. And I think open-mindedness to viewpoints is very important.
We got 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Jeff Harman is our guest tonight. Jeff, I'm going to be honest with you. AI scares the hell out of me. Not what we're doing on computers by making thumbnails or creating commercials or T-shirts or whatever, but the real AI, because there's always a nefarious, anything good always starts off nefarious. Okay. If we think, when you look in the sky, when you look at the sky and you see a 747 or a 737 or an Airbus, that is technology of an airframe that is 70 plus years old. The computers may be new, the engines may be new, but it's still old technology on how we fly. And I look at AI as something that, as exciting as it is, damn well that just like aircraft hidden out at Area 51 that are 50 to 100 years more advanced than us, and that we see on a daily basis, I'm pretty sure that AI is the same way, that there are, like I've said on this show, like Terminator, was Terminator really a premonition of what the future is going to hold? 20 years ago, I'd have said that's a movie that scares the hell out of me. Today, I'm like, was that a premonition of what's going to happen?
Yeah.
40 seconds.
Well, I got to say, you're right on, bud. I mean, clearly, AI in the wrong hands and used for the wrong purposes is a very dangerous tool. I mean, listen to Klaus Schwab at the Davos. He basically said, whoever controls AI will be the ruler of the world. I'm like, what am I listening to? An Austin Powers movie? So yeah, this is, where eugenics is coming in. They want to kill off 3/4 of the human race and they think they can replace us with AI. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. But that's, it is scary because AI can be a wonderful aid to humanity. And I think it's actually going to be, but we have to keep it in check.
Jeff Harman, we got him for another hour. Let's get in some ghost stories and some UFOs when we return on Spaced Out Radio, hour number 2.
All right.
It's Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear, my man. I'm just going to step away from the computer here or the screen for a few minutes. I will be right back.
Sounds good.
All right. Be right back, everybody. Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. back. And we'll bring Jeff back. All right, Jeff, we got about a minute to go here.
You got it, bud.
You having fun?
Yeah. I want to tell some ghost and clearing stories.
Absolutely. Excuse me.
Me too. Yeah, I had a cough earlier. How's the weather up by you? What kind of temperatures you got going?
We're getting into the 80s now. It'll be
nice.
probably low 90s coming up here for the weekend.
It was 110 today on the 101 coming into Beverly Hills on 405.
Oh man,
110 degrees.
That's
kind of warm. And the minute I come over the hill towards the ocean, it drops. It drops to like 78 as I get down in the Beverly Hills area. Drops like a rock. I love it because I go from it's like traveling between countries here when I only go 25, 30 miles. I love it.
Right. I'm just glad.
I was freezing when I left Beverly Hills right after I talked to you. And then I come over the hill and it's back up to 85, So
hold on right there, buddy. All right, we're here with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We always have a lot of fun bringing the woo to you. Jeff Harman will join us for hour 2 momentarily, but first, want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Yeah, we put it out there free for you. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. La Quiera. La Quiera is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Jeff Harman is here. His website, jeffharman.com. Going to get into some paranormal stories right now. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've been dealing with the paranormal, clearing houses, buildings, commercial areas, clearing people, dealing with possessions. Yeah. How's that going for you?
Well, it's dangerous stuff, actually. I have to say, it was the late 80s, early 90s when I first started getting into this stuff. And I was always attracted to, what is ghosts? A lot of people, we watch these shows, we see temperature changes, and we hear all these paranormal, stories about ghosts and hauntings, etc. But it was really when I started cracking into, it was I think actually in the mid 80s, I started doing these retreats. I had a studio and I was hired by a lot of different religious organizations where I do radio programs, we do films, we do whatever, what have you. And I started touching base with all these different opinions on, what life is, what happens when we die and the afterlife and all this. And I think the areas that really attracted me the most, again, was parapsychology. And one of the books that stumbled across my path was something written back in the 20s and 30s of last century by Dr. Carl Wicklund. I talk a lot about this on my YouTube channel, Jeff Harman, Astrologer. And Dr. Carl Wicklund was kind of the modern bridge to the ancient world and knowledge that the Egyptians knew about. And many of your ancient cultures, particularly in India, Taoism and Buddhism, and of course, the Vedantic stuff. And this is that what happens when we exit the body? Well, we don't die. And the scientific proof, I think Dr. Carl Wicklund might have shown better than anyone. And then I also mentioned several other books that I really enjoy, which is Freeing the Captives. This is a medical doctor who got into finding that many of got sick and tired of surgeries and pharmaceuticals and said, there's something going on with these people that is far beyond just medically explainable. And this also was found by Dr. Edith Fiore, a very well-known psychologist. And where I'm going with all this is hauntings come from disincarnate souls who are usually lost, angry, or attached to the etheric energy that is at the place that they live. Dr. Carl Wicklund logged his wife was a psychic channel. He used shock therapy treatment, which is still used to this day. It's actually something invented in the late 1800s called a Wimshurst generator. It was actually an Englishman named Wimshurst who developed this very high voltage. This is what Tesla was using. He'd have voltage, rolling all around him. And this is because very high frequency, extreme high voltages will not penetrate deep into things. They run on the surface of things, of wires and, of course, people, etc. So you got to be careful because it's very dangerous. But he would shock these disincarnate souls out of patients. See, Dr. Wicklund ran a thing called the Psychical Institute of America in Los Angeles in the teens through the early 30s, actually in the late 30s. And people who had schizophrenia, paranormal, things that were going on that nobody could get rid of. And he would cure them. He would literally dislodge the disincarnate souls attached to the person. And his wife would take them in and they'd start talking. Well, who are you? Well, I'm so-and-so. And I'm very angry. Nobody listens to me anymore. And they found that the patient that they dislodged this from would clear up when they did this. And he would have dialogue with them. This is probably one of the most incredible books you'll ever read, 30 Years Among the Dead. It's on my actually Amazon page too on my website. And I talk a lot about this on my YouTube channel. Well, anyways, where am I going with all this? So all this study, I started learning about clearing. And you got to be careful with clearing because there's many different opinions on this. Some people will use religious things. There's a Christian method, probably Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin was an excellent book. And there's many different modalities that you can use. But I started then delving into doing this type of work. And it's something I don't do quite as much as I used to do because it's you can get sick from it. I've actually had 102 fever clearing people where the etheric energy would come on me. I'd have businesses psychics would say, this place is haunted, right? And I would go in and remote clear it. And I would often find it would be angry, violent, disincarnate souls, which is just a word for somebody that had passed on. And what happens is you can't just talk to them and get them to leave because first off, they don't even know that they're dead. And they grab onto the magnetic auras of people and places. And this is what sustains them on the lower astral planes. And this was actually talked about in many of the ancient Vedantic and Buddhist documents, where there's 9 dimensions they talk about in these lower, real thick planes. If anyone's ever seen the movie What Dreams May Come, which was with Robin Williams. And of course, the movie Ghost was one of my favorite movies with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. And I think it's quite a bit like that, where the soul can actually open up and leave these lower dimensions if our consciousness is aware of it. But if we're not aware of it, we can end up trapped down here. There's a book I mentioned by a man named Rabbi Fatea. He was a rabbi clearing people in Baghdad in the late 1800s as World War I broke out. And what's so good about this book is he documented hundreds and hundreds of cases of people possessing other people, and they would become catatonic, schizophrenic, etc., or the place would have hauntings. And I've done a lot of this type of work, and I won't mention where, but there was a judge who came to me with his wife. And he said, listen, I want to keep this confidential, so I can't say who it was or where it was. But he said, we've had 7 maids quit here. So I cleared the house, and he actually gave me permission. He gave me written permission to be in the house, to work for several hours to clear it. And I actually found that the house that they owned used to be a brothel. And there was a girl who was pushed off the end of a hill, probably got pregnant. And this was probably back in the 1930s. I couldn't localize it, but I did find out that particular place where it was located was rumored to be a brothel. And this was many years earlier. And then, of course, they bought the house. It was a kind of a big house, a very fancy house. And long story short, I found that she didn't even know she was dead. She was just grieving. And this is what they would hear. They'd hear this moaning. And this is very common, in haunted places. And these souls really end up locked in to the etheric or magnetic energies of not only the place, but the people in it. And this is why a lot of people get afraid. So the only way I could get her to leave was literally to have her incarcerated in like a psychic, you could say, encasement, and just moved away. There's actually helpers on the astral plane, call them angels, whatever, that actually can do this. And what I really don't like is how much this knowledge has been hidden. Anybody can do this. You just have to learn how. And there's many methods as to how. And I'm not claiming my way is perfect. Religious beliefs are very important. What's most important is your ability to concentrate. See, we emit something called thought form elementals out of the third eye chakra. And see, the pineal gland is back here, right? So it's and all the religions, all the history, all talk about the pineal gland, right? Connected to the third eye. We see with the eyes, but we project with the third eye. And it's very shut down, especially in this time era. And we emit thought form elementals. Dr. Emoto proved that. Messages in Water. Many people have heard of this. If you look at Dr. Emoto's books, what does he prove? He took water, froze it in a petri dish, and had people pray, meditate. He would sample water where violence had happened, where prayers happened, and they would always come out like sacred geometry or gobbledygook, depending on the energy it was exposed to. Water was the medium that contained it. Well, our auric fields have this. And what's interesting about all this is our belief systems and our thoughting every day permeates our aura. This gets into what the ancients called physiognomy. You can see in a person's face what they're like. So the interesting thing is when we pass on, this doesn't change, and we're often entrapped by the very belief systems we have. I really encourage people to read Dr. Carl Wickland's book, 30 Years Among the Dead. There's another book I mentioned quite frequently. It's called The Magus Astrovolos, about a healer that lived on the island of Cyprus. And he, too, talks about these entrapments. And I really believe the evil spirits love to keep us stupid because that etheric energy keeps us trapped in these lower reincarnational planes. And the religions have done little to shed light on this. Not that I'm bashing all the religions. Some of them have some very good stuff in it. But there's really powerful things we can all learn to do. And you have to remove superstition and fear to do it.
Why do you go stick around? Are they energetically trapped? Are they wanting to stay here? Can they not go?
The latter, it may be all of that. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is anger. Many times, I had one clearing I did in Burbank. There, and this was pretty wild. The owner of this apartment complex said, Jeff, he said, I don't know what's going on here. He said, it's crazy. He said, there's always drug dealers coming in here. Even when I rent it to good people, somehow they get involved with this crazy stuff. A lot of violence here. And, the cops are always coming. And he said, I want to clear this place. I said, okay. So I did. I went in and I what I do is I use astrology. See, this is not superstition. And it's in very well laid out ancient text. They say when you want to clear a place, first you should analyze it by casting a chart known as an interrogation to see what kind of energies are you dealing with. Are you dealing with disincarnate souls? Are you dealing with evil elementals? Or are you dealing with demonic spirits? Which again, those are much, much harder to deal with. Well, and oftentimes violence in these resonances, see, think of tuning forks. When you get a lot of violence around certain places, you can really feel it. I'll never forget, I was in New Orleans and I was taking a ferry across the Mississippi River to go visit a friend. And I was walking and I went by this place and I just felt all this heavy energy. And I got to my friend's house. He was from New Orleans. I said, what the heck happened in this area? He said, well, that's where they used to hang slaves. I said, man, could I feel it? I could just feel the grief. I could feel the hurt and the pain and the anger. And it was heavy. And New Orleans is full of disincarnate souls. And so are many places throughout the world. I mean, I've actually cleared properties where I've seen people like Spaniards from 300-400 years ago were still on the land. They're rooted by the events that they're locked into. See, this is why when you look at trauma and mind control, all of us are mind controlled to some extent by our very own lives. We're so blocked from the access to our upper souls. They actually say there's 5 layers to the soul. I actually have those diagrams a lot on my YouTube channel. You guys can check it out. Again, I'm like you, it's all free. So the bottom line is you just subscribe. The cool thing is this is not my innovation. These are ancient texts that I quote that talk about this stuff. And the lower conscious mind starts forming at first breath. And we're blocked, we're knocked out. So if a soul lives its life and it exits the body through anger, death, violence, all this stuff, a lot of times that soul is at a very low vibration, depending on who the soul is. Nobody's the same. And we're all at different evolutional points. But it often roots us down into these lower planes. Remember Ghost? I love that scene with the guy on the train. Get off my train, remember? And then Patrick Swayze comes back and says, you got to teach me how you move the papers and move things, right? And he says, you got to feel it. See, it's all emotion. Our minds are the most amazing things in the universe. The whole universe was created by, they say, the mind of divinity, or God, if you will, right? And the angels, they actually say if the angels, called the seraphims, cherubims, and the throne, ever stopped chanting permutations of creation, which is apparently exceedingly complex numerology, far beyond anything we're ever going to know in these lower consciousnesses, the entire universe would evaporate in less than a nanosecond. And many people have probably heard that. That's in some very ancient texts. Of course, today they call it the Kabbalah, but that's just ancient sacred knowledge. And the ancient Egypt was into a lot of this stuff too, and so were the Chaldeans. Very interesting stuff. And the Vedantic, the Rishis, and the seers. Anyways, back to the topic here. Ghosts at a low vibrational conscious level will stay rooted, and they actually possess people. Most of your really advanced paranormal parapsychologists say almost everyone will probably have several disincarnate souls attached to their auras at some point throughout their lives. And I have found the astrology, there's something called progressions. And this is amazing stuff. You can't make this stuff up. The earth is a time machine. It's where time and karma synchronizes. And they say there's 300 or more planets just like Earth at these lower vibrations. It's a place where we come to have experience of the spirit and the soul, and we're blocked, at least at this point in time, from full access to our full, you could say, Akashic records or our full history of our soul journeys. And we're attached to all these different soul roots. It's very complex, far beyond what any of us will ever understand, certainly what I'll ever understand. But these ancient documents talk about this. And depending on the trauma that the person has experienced in a lifetime, like I had one guy, he was a drug addict, and he died of morphine in New York. He was so angry. There was no way you could reason or talk to this person. The only way we could get him out of this particular place that he was haunting was to have him taken away. And, this stuff sounds incredible, but the person who owned the business told me after I did the clearing, it stopped, and again, I don't take credit for this because anyone can do this if you train your mind on the techniques that are necessary. Now, some people will use religious figures, Jesus, Buddha, whatever, Moses, whatever it takes, but it's really the pensive focus that we create to cause these things to happen. You use sacred geometry. I use astrology too. Not only do I use astrology to assess what's going on, but I also use electional astrology, which is picking an auspicious time to do the clearing. And again, this isn't my innovation. I can show you text. They say to clear a person or a place, you want the moon to be separating from malefics and applying to benefics in a geometric fashion. Now, many of people familiar with astrology will know, malefic aspects are squares and oppositions or conjunctions to malefics. And applying to benefics is just a fancy term that means you want to have it hitting good planets like Jupiter and Venus or the sun or something that's auspiciously well rooted in the chart at the time you do it. See, this energy never stops. The celestial influences will go on and on way past any of our incarnations. God only knows when it'll stop. But it is a constant undulation of, you could say, angelic energy. See, in the Bible, they talk about Exodus, right? And many people familiar with the magical documents have heard of the keys of Solomon's, the lesser, the greater keys, the Shemem, Mephoresh, all this stuff. There's literally angels that rule every single degree of the ancient knowledge in the zodiacs. All this has been lost in the modern astrology. I call modern astrology love, light, and cluelessness because it's all just sun sign crap. Oh, I'm a Pisces, I'm an Aries. It's so far beyond that. It's an angelic matrix that our souls are interacting with. And I think what's a shame is, a lot of this knowledge has been hidden, and the psychiatrists and the psychologists who've really delved into this have given us scientific proof. We don't die. And the more conscious we are when we exit this body, or this meat suit known as a body, the more conscious we are, the less likely we are to possess or stay in the lower planes. We are going to rise up and hopefully escape from Alcatraz. And if we do come back, we come back because we want to help others rather than just create more havoc.
2 minutes to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Jeff Harman is our guest tonight. Jeff, are the deceased still living on another timeline? And maybe we're their ghosts?
Well, I don't think there is any time. I think there's you could say a galactic, there's many people who call this the multiverse, which is the multiple dimensions and multiple universes, which I believe is true. But they say angels and upper dimensions operate on totally different time. Again, what is time? I mean, when we think about day, it's just sunrise, noon, sunset, midnight. A year is a cycle around the sun. Even if you're a flat earther, we still experience that, right? So no matter what this place is, time is a physical earth construct. There is no time. There certainly is time in these bodies, but there's no time really. And I think when we just open up to these possibilities, we expand our conscious awareness a lot. And as a result, we exit. Again, I really encourage people to read that book, The 30 Years Among the Dead. I have it on my website. And also I mention a lot about it in these podcasts that we do. And to me, it's something I really love to tell people about because we're all very programmed by what we believe. Anytime I hear somebody say, well, I believe, I always go, okay, and I'm going to hear what they believe, right? Which is fine. We all have beliefs. I have beliefs. But I think being more consciously aware opens us up to a lot more realms. It's just like people are called crazy for believing in aliens. Well, I can tell you they're real. I've experienced them, and so many people have. Dr. Lear, who was taking physical implants out of people. I knew him, a nice guy, and he passed away a ways back. Dr. John Mack and so many others. I mentioned a lot of these on our podcast. I mean, these people aren't crazy. There's a lot going. I've seen shape-shifting beings go from normal height to really tall. I've seen claws shape-shift from hands, and a lot of people have seen this stuff. It's not unique.
On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jeff Harman, we have him for another half an hour here on Spaced Out Radio. What a night of information. We're going to try and get to some audience questions in the next half hour, but we also got to talk some UFOs. What are they? JeffHarman.com is his website. This is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Jeff, we got about 5 minutes. Excuse me. Biofuel Brad, how you doing? Science Bob's always on the second Wednesday of the month. Not the first, the second. T-Bone, thank you, buddy. Good question, Oob. I'm just getting caught up in the chat room. Aloha, Dave. What's happening? Emperor Penguin, welcome back. Dave, oh, Dave, I've been holding it. I can. Oh, yeah. Go away, Deb. Let her fly. Let her fly. Fun show so far. Completely fun. Gyro, how are you? You can have the cannabis. I'll just sit and enjoy the smell. How about that? Cliff Psy, how are you?
How are we running on time, bud?
We are about 40 seconds away.
All right.
Oh, man, this has been a lot of fun.
Good.
Good morning, Commonwealth Andrew. All right, my friend. Thank you, T-Bone times 2, Debaruni, and Trucker Andrew for the great super chats tonight. Always appreciate the love. And, of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. We're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. All right, let's kick off the second half of tonight's show on Spaced Out Radio. Wherever you're tuning in, thank you for allowing us to bring the woo to you. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can find our free archives. They're always free on any major podcast network or on YouTube. Just type in Spaced Out Radio. Take you right there. Hit subscribe. That's what we want back. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, Jeff Harman is here, and we're going to get into some UFO talk here. We've talked about astrology, we've talked about AI, we've talked about ghosts. What are they? All from a real scientific-like perspective. Let's get to them aliens, Jeff. What's going on with them?
Boy, that's a deep subject. I don't think anybody can 100% answer that one. I mean, my take is, I've had too many experiences where I've had, again, missing time. I'll never forget, this is again back in the 70s. We're driving a car, and a friend of mine and I are on a frontage road on I-94, not too far from Chicago. And all of a sudden, a half an hour later, we knew it was late because of the time on the clock in the car. And I said, how do we get over on this side of the freeway? And he says, I don't know. And he says, I can't remember anything right now. He says, really strange. And look at the time. So, there's been a lot of people who've come forward with that. And again, it's always been interesting to go to MUFON and, where you get like-minded people who aren't ridiculed, who can come forward with these things. John Mack, Camille and I met him out in Malibu. And if anybody knows who he is, Dr. John Mack, he was the psychiatrist who did a very deep analysis on whether all these people claiming to have abductions and various different things, are they crazy or not? And of course, his conclusion was no, they're not crazy. They're telling the truth. And of course, he couldn't verify certain things, but he said from a psychiatric standpoint, they're absolutely not. This isn't a phobia. This isn't, some hallucination. He said his opinion was they're real. And, again, I've seen things where I've just done a double take. I was walking in a building in Beverly Hills about 25 years ago, and I was walking down the hallway and come out of the elevators, and I saw this guy just shapeshift to like 8.5 feet tall, and he didn't look like a Bigfoot either. There was like a strange looking alien. It caught me so far off guard, and then he shrunk down and went back in the elevator. I thought, okay, wait a minute. I'm drinking coffee here today. I'm not, I don't drink anyhow. And I thought, wow, and then I've seen, people's hands shape shift. I was working with one guy, and his hand shape-shifted into a claw. And I thought, okay, that's just maybe my imagination, right? Except he noticed that I noticed that his hand changed into a claw, and he put it under the desk, and he got real sheepish. And I thought, okay, that's clearly an indication that I didn't just hallucinate, and I know what I saw. I can still envision it right now. So I've seen a lot of things. Many people have. Many people reported this stuff. I actually was standing in Santa Monica Bay, which is, many people will know, that's right between Pacific Palisades and the city of Santa Monica in California. And I actually got scanned. And it was the craziest thing. I'm just standing, because I always love to go to the ocean, get the negative ions. So I'm standing down there late at night, and I could literally psychically hear they were scanning me, and they were looking at what my diet was like and various different things. And I look up and I see this craft out over the bay, and about, I'd say, less than half a second after I saw it, it went whew, and just streaked across the sky. Many times I've been traveling between Tucson and Los Angeles over the years, and I always love the deserts roads, late at night. It's nothing like the American road, right? It's and I'm sure you got them up there in Canada too, where you got these long desert highways, right? And what happened is I would pull over late at night, go to the rest area or whatever, and I'd be checking. I'd be often pulling a trailer, and I'd look up and I'd see craft just rocket across the desert sky. I was on a treasure hunt up in a place called Pahrump, Nevada. This is, again, about 20 years ago. And
home of Hart Bell.
What's that?
The home of Hart Bell.
That's right. And also very close to Area 51. And I crawled up to the top of this place where the mine was, they were scoping it out. We were looking at the astrology, and they had ranger tells up there and all this stuff. And what was interesting is I got to the top of the mountain, and I could see way off in the distance, probably 30 miles, this craft just hovering. And then it would hover, and then it went down. And then I said, "What is that over there?" He said, "It looks like a lake bed." He said, "Oh yeah, that's Broom Lake. You're looking at Area 51." I said, "Wow." And the rumors have always been that our government was involved with them. And I think that is very true. Eisenhower mentioned this. And of course, the very famous, was a Roswell event. There's no question in my mind that they've reverse engineered things, that we're using reverse engineered technology right now. I think the Earth is probably full of underground, places, tunnels. I mean, Elon Musk owns one of the largest tunneling companies in the world. And, again, I was teaching that class. This is way back in the 80s. And we got into subjects like this, paranormal. It was a physics class. And we were talking about dimensions and so on and so forth in quantum physics. And that's when the guy piped up in the audience. He says, "My dad's an admiral." And he says, we take all kinds of stuff underneath all the way up to Salt Lake. And he didn't say it, but he inferred that there was a lot of potential things going on that weren't just normal. And again, that's where that huge base is believed to be, this huge opening. They actually scrubbed it off of Google from what I've heard, but it's right off the coast of Malibu. If anybody's familiar with Zuma Beach, which is called Point Doom, and just north of there is Point Magoo. It's right in between that, about probably 5-6 miles out. It's this huge cavern that they see these craft come in and out of. And the propagation speeds go from almost instant or immeasurable out of our atmosphere. So there's a lot going on here. And I could, when I think about it, the amount of stuff that I have just seen with my own eyes is absolutely amazing. And many people, again, have claimed, look at Whitley Strieber, and, Camille's claims she's been abducted. And I think she's probably not wrong. And, we see this in the books like the Keys of Enoch. If anyone's familiar with that, that is a canon that was omitted out of the Bible, and very ancient stuff. And we hear about the Nag Hammadi libraries, the Vedantic stuff. If you get into the Rig Veda, the Artha Veda, the UFOs and alien craft are all over that in terms of, talking about other civilizations that have come here. Look at Egypt. There's no question, and some of the artifacts that we have left over that are inexplicable, how they get built. There's a lot going on this planet that I think is very, very hidden from us. And we need to be open to. Look at Admiral Byrd. He was believed to have been brought down by alien craft underneath this planet under Antarctica. And they were told, "We know you guys got the nuclear weapons. You just lit off Hiroshima and Nagasaki." And they said, "We will intervene and stop an all-out nuclear war," which is a big fear everybody's got right now, right? Everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's World War III," So hopefully that'll never happen. And I personally believe it probably won't. And the reason why, I think there's not only angelic forces, but I think there's extraterrestrial forces that will stop it. And again, proof of that is the commander at Minot Air Force Base said we have light orbs that would come in, and afterwards we're replacing circuit boards. And I think the Earth is really a divine place, and it might be protected by a lot more than we know, angelically and extraterrestrially. I know if anyone takes a 2,000 millimeter lens, which is pretty damn long, you're getting into telescope ranges here. I have actually videotaped with raw and compressed cameras, craft coming in and out of the moon. It's like Grand Central Station. And people go, well, how can you prove? Well, look at the footage. It's amazing. I got to dig that footage up. It's absolutely incredible, the stuff coming in and out of there. Over in Tucson, Arizona, I have seen so much stuff. I used to watch this one light that would sit there and jitter, and then it would stop, just like a star, and then it would sit there and jitter. I mean, there's a lot going on. And I think this planet, they're among us, but they have a way not to, they can dimensionally shift. And I think that might be what's going on too when we talk about Bigfoot. It was about 73 or 74. I was walking in northern Wisconsin up this road. It was probably April, March, something like that. In northern Wisconsin, it's still, you still got snow on the ground often. And I saw this guy who was huge, and he was lumbering, and he stopped about maybe 50, 75 yards from me, max. It was not that far. It was kind of at dusk, and he froze, and I froze. The guy was huge. He had to be over 8 foot tall. And he took off like a bullet, and he ran through brush on the other side of the road. I don't think a deer could have gotten through and not make noise. And I actually think he dimension shifted. That's what I think, because there's no way he could have gotten through that brush. I know we looked and there were no footprints right there, and I saw him go in there. So we're definitely, living in a planet that is multidimensional. And I think, it'd be ludicrous to not think that we are not among many, many, many different terrestrial and extraterrestrial beings. And I think that when you add in dimensional shifting and multi-dimensions, there's where it's going on.
Do you think that these, what we call aliens or extraterrestrials, are from here, from outer space, from a different dimension? Are they time traveling humans from a time
could be all of that.
Shifted?
They could be all of that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know, but I would say this, that my personal experience is, I think a lot of them are here, and they can dimensionally shift in and out. I mean, look at Skinwalker Ranch and many other investigations that are going on. And of course, they're taking scientific instruments. They're measuring all kinds of things, cattle mutilations. I actually did a lot of studies on that with astrology. I've worked with a lot of remote viewing groups in astrology. I was actually had a number of different groups contact me and say, hey, we want to figure out why we hit our targets a lot and then we don't. What's going on? Is there any rotational things going on with the Earth, cycles around the sun, alignments with fixed stars, etc., constellations that could have an effect? And I found that was true, but I also found what was true was the celestial influences on the individuals hitting their targets or not hitting their targets. And I've had some really interesting data on that. Clearly, the moon has a huge effect. I mean, not only does it affect the tides, but if you study the ancient real astrology and you start looking at the geometry, which is really just complex mathematics, you will, it's amazing how accurate it is. And see, you got to get a lot deeper than modern astrology. There's something called the 27 lunar mansions in Vedic astrology. And there's actually 128 divisions of this zodiac between the Earth and the moon. And this is deep, deep stuff. You can't make this up. The Egyptians and the Chaldeans had a 28 lunar mansion. The Vedic astrologers used a 27. There are actually 4 divisions in each one. And of course, talk about numerology, that's where the number 108 comes from. Many people who studied and been involved in spiritual groups or yoga studios, they'll notice they do mantras at 108 groupings. That's called a japa mala beat string. And there's also 108 lunar mansions. And this parallels 9 is spiritual completion. See, 1 plus 8 is 9. So, and 27 is 9. You see, 9 months in the womb. There's a lot of numerology to all of this stuff. It's exceedingly organized in a very divine way, way beyond, I think, human comprehension. But Vedic astrology will blow your hair back. The cycles that we're all going through, you can actually see the moon's nodes are where eclipse points happen. When the sun and the moon and the earth align, we get an eclipse, right? That just means the orbital path, which is a fancy word called the ecliptic, of the earth and the sun and the moon align, we get an occultation of either the new moon, right, the sun, or the full moon. So where the earth blocks the light of the moon. And these are very powerful points, and they have a lot to do with consciousness. And I believe if we ever see the axis tip, which we will sooner or later, and God only knows when that might really happen. And there's ancient legends where the moon used to shine all the time. And I think it has a lot of relationship to the consciousness that we're all in right now, because the moon's nodes in Vedic astrology have a huge effect on the blockages of the lower conscious mind to contacting the upper dimensions of the mind and the soul, which psychology likes to call the subconscious mind. I think it's way deeper than that. And I really believe there's a lot going on here with abductions, astrology, remote viewing, and these paranormal experiences that have a lot to do with the celestial phenomena and alignments, which is pretty deep stuff, and pretty cool stuff too, I might add. We are literally, I call the earth a time machine. That's what it is. Do you know that in your birth chart, every single day you live after you're born equals the next 100 days equals the next 100 years. And you can literally use in the ancient types of progressions and what they call primary directions, which is a fancy word for the rotation of the earth. You can actually extrapolate out events that happen throughout your life. You can't make this stuff up. You can see peaks when you're going to have a real big career peak. You can see times when it's going to shut down, times that you're more stoic. It's really, these are the cycles and the ebbs and flows throughout an individual's life. And you can't make this stuff up. It's not superstition. It's not predicting the future. It's just energy. It's cycles. And we're all here experiencing that. And belief is not required. You know, again, when I first got around this stuff, I went, come on, this stuff can't be. But it does. It's an energy. It's no different than the seasons of the year. I mean, it's hard to believe where you live and where I grew up, it gets 30 below, and yet it gets 80 or 90 in the summer. It's like you're in a different world in the winter when you're in the northern climates versus the summer, all the mosquitoes, and the heat and the humidity. So it's a very dynamic planet. It's literally where spirit manifests. And that's what the earth is. And whether we believe that or not, it's what's happening. I don't care if you're talking about humans, animals, and potentially other life forms, and the plant kingdoms, and the mineral kingdoms. All of this goes through cycles. They say everything under the sun will be born, it will experience, it will grow, it will mature, it will atrophy, and it will die on the physical plane. But the spirit and the soul is indestructible. And very interesting stuff, because that's a fabric science cannot measure. And that's what Vedic astrology's real name is, the science of the light of the soul. It's called Jyotisha. Jyotisha is a strange word that means the science of the light of the soul. A friend of mine who passed away, Chakrapani, he might have been the guy who coined that. He came here in the 60s from India, and he said, Americans are never going to figure out what Jyotisha means. He said, we'll call it Vedic astrology. And I think he was right, because it stuck. And he was a very nice guy. He just passed away in his mid to late 80s. I think he was about 86. And he, many of the Vedic astrologers who came to America, particularly from the 30s, Sri Yukteswar, Paramahansa Yogananda. They talk a lot about the essences of life and the cycles. And it's very interesting stuff. And boy, does the moon play deep into this stuff. Talk about numerology. There's an angel that's on the eastern horizon when we draw first breath. Stunning. It's absolutely so accurate. It's creepy. Everybody either loves Donald Trump or hates him, right? Because it's in the big deal right now with the election. Donald Trump has an angel on his eastern horizon. Guess what it is? It's called a king sitting on a throne waiting to don a golden crown. Now, whether you like Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump, doesn't that fit him? Look at Trump Towers. Look at Mar-a-Lago. Look at everything he owns. Everything is gold. It looks like Versailles. Everything's royal. So it fits this person. And I've seen this thousands of times, even in my own chart. It shows the angel that's, if you take a laser and you shot out into deep space in a sidereal zodiac at the exact instant in time where you're born on this planet, which could be anywhere, right? Some of us are born northern, southern, wherever, other sides of the world. If you took and froze that moment in time, you would literally come up with a sidereal degree that rules an angel. And it's stunning how accurate it is. Absolutely stunning.
Jeff, we have about 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. The message for people looking forward is what?
Oh, I think my message, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do or lead any torches, but I think we need to realize we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and the world has a lot of truths, but it's also full of a lot of lies. And that is, again, I encourage people to read some of these books I talk about on my podcast, because it's really incumbent upon us to realize that I think life here is very protected, even though we have wars and a lot of trauma and people, there's all the violence, but there's also so much sacred creation, and it never stops. It never stops. No matter what, creation just keeps on coming. And I think it's going on all over in the universe. It's just we're very isolated here, and a lot of secrets have been kept from us. But you look at, from a plant, throw a seed in the ground, watch a plant grow, watch a baby, watch a kitten, watch, I don't care what you look at, an animal in the wilderness. It's stunning, the genetics and the unfoldment. There's a force going on here. It's really divine. And I think the extraterrestrials, some of them are preying off this stuff. Others are actually maybe here to help guide it in a very hidden, secret way, along with angels and spirits and intelligences. You look at the 4 archangels that are often talked about that rule earth, air, fire, and water. This place is even though all of us have a lot of hard times here, this is a really amazing place of creation where spirit becomes manifest. And there's a lot going on to support that when you think about it. A lot.
As we prepare to say goodnight to you, I want to say a big thank you, Jeff, for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's been a lot of fun. It was educational, and I think for a lot of people, we didn't understand how numbers really do tie in to absolutely everything, whether you're living a breathing creature like a human or a tree or an animal, or whether you are from another universe or a ghost that's hanging around. I think you tied it all beautifully together, my friend. 30 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your podcast and your website.
Yeah, the website is jeff@jeffharman.com. And the podcast is Jeff Harman Astrologer. You can also put Jeff Harman Vedic Astrologer. Any one of them will work. It's Harman. But we have a lot of fun on that. And we're starting to do a lot of live stuff too. And, where we get chats and people asking questions. So it's a lot of fun. It's just something, we've only been out there for a short time, and we're trying to build the channel. But we're really trying to hold the torch for this incredible planet and who we are as spiritual beings in the middle of it. It's really pretty wild, because I think it's a big universe out there. And
that's a good place to end it right there, my friend. Jeff Harman, everybody. Coming up next, Steve Stockton from Tales Untold, then Lee Strauss is going to join us with a cryptid update. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Jeff, thank you so much, my man.
You are so
Really-
welcome, my friend. Thank you for having me. It was very enjoyable. Great
That
show.
was so educational and entertaining. I appreciate that.
Well, we all know enough just to be completely dangerous, right?
Exactly. We're going to do it again. I promise
You
you.
bet. All
We're gonna
right,
do it
bud.
again.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You take care, my friend.
Yeah, you as well up there. Bye now.
Bye-bye. All right. Super crazy. Not really a UFO report tonight because just some weird crap happening out in the forest right now that we got to get it to. So bear with me. It'll be entertaining. Be right back. All right. I am back. Let me check here, Witchy. No, I have you. I have New Zealand on the map. It's pinned. Thank you tonight to T-Bone times 2, Camille, Andrew, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats. Greatly appreciated. Hi, Moody Mongol. How you doing? Good to have you here. We're going to get going right now. All right, let's kick off the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. A spooky story from Steve Stockton coming up momentarily. But first, I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. Good to have you with us on a nightly basis. I hope we keep entertaining your listening needs. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, let's get to the Desert Clam, who's set the password for tonight in the big club. Let's check it on out. La Quiera. La Quiera is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night. We say hello to Steve Stockton from Tales Untold and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. The dogmen in question that we keep hearing about are creatures that stand on two legs or sometimes walk on four like a dog. They're massive in size. Often reports state they're 8 to 10 feet tall, excessive muscles that stand out very defined like a bodybuilder's, and these creatures are highly intelligent. They're sneaky, prefer to stay out of sight, or often run when they are seen. They can run up trees at phenomenal speeds and jump from branch to branch dozens of feet off the ground. They are fast and quiet. Although these creatures are said to be so large and terrifying at first sight, they have been known to protect humans, especially in circumstances when the human was being attacked or stalked by the creature some call Bigfoot. For some unknown reason, many stories have come out saying that the unsuspecting human was surprised by the Bigfoot creatures, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, the dogmen attack and chase off the Bigfoot. We don't know why this happens, and there haven't been any documented cases declassified of Bigfoot being a verified creature, so to say. Now, these dogmen creatures are what this community believes to be the legend called werewolves, massive beings that are human-like in their looks, behavior, and even their eyes. It seems they have an awareness of themselves and the humans around them above those of actual recognized dog species. They are conspicuous when near humans, ensuring they don't get close most of the time. They intentionally hide behind trees, bushes, and buildings. They do hunt, often seen eating the recently deceased carcasses of deer, rabbits, and more. Despite their enormous size, they are astonishingly quiet, able to walk right up to an innocent human out on a hike or picnic. The only telltale sign that they are near is the description of their smell. The smell, often described as the most horrendous smell hikers and campers have ever smelled, similar to that of a Bigfoot, is said to smell like death or a rotting animal. The smell of death is often unmistakable. People who have been the unfortunate ones to experience this know that this particular smell will hit you with an immediate sense of dread. A trigger to your instincts, if you will. Basic human survival, something is wrong, that type of warning. This smell instantly hooks you into the scene, bringing about awareness of your surroundings that's very heightened in every sense, searching for the source of it. Hunters and hikers often freeze when smells like this present themselves, and the smell is often accompanied by a predator. Usually it's a big one, such as a bear, mountain lion, or the elusive panther, animals that you don't want to be caught off guard around. Ones that will attack you, sometimes with zero provocation, but you have to remember you're in their territory without their permission. The next occurrence seems to be the presentation of the creatures, often letting the humans spot them, but not close enough to endanger themselves. They may peek around trees or just confront the visitor's face on, and those stories usually don't end in happy retellings. There seems to be two types of these creatures as well. The dogmen, who seem to be a more relaxed, helpful, or the friendly type. The second type is the exact opposite, unfriendly, even aggressive in some reports, chasing, howling, and growling at people who mistakenly get too close. One interesting report from the subreddit /dogmen came from user Electrical Day 5402 and states, quote, "This town has a concealed history of UFO and extraterrestrial sightings. I do wonder if their extraterrestrials were indeed bipedal dogmen and not grays, as I initially assumed. Orb-like UFOs are common to spot around here. They stay up far beyond the 30-minute mark, ruling out drones, and they are eerily silent. But when they do hover closer to the ground, I do know Dogman doesn't like that. And when one starts howling about the nearing orb-like UFO, it sets off all the others too. I wonder how many people thought the neighborhood dogs were reacting to UFOs, not realizing it was Dogman," end quote. So is it possible that these experiments had an unsuspected effect on these dogs? That it created a somehow different species or a hybrid out of them? Maybe some of them escaped, which wouldn't be too rare for these laboratory experiments.
And thank you to Steve for coming on Spaced Out Radio again to kick off hour 3. If you want more just like that, head over to his YouTube channel, Tales Untold, and hit subscribe. All right, we're going to continue with a little bit of a strange story here that Jackie Harman talked about last night on the show. Bigfoot. Even though it's a UFO report night, this story, I can't get it out of my mind. Let's go to Lee Strauss here.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, Lee Strauss, it's good to have you here, my man. Thank you for coming on in. And I can't get over the story of what happened to you guys. I know you explained it. You and Jackie have a brand new show on our YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio called Element 115 that goes Friday night, starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, right before we go live with the big show on radio, podcast, and on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I needed to hear it. I needed our radio fans to hear it. We got Jackie's portion last night where literally some pervert Sasquatch was groping her.
Yeah, I had no idea that was going on, by the way.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to say I was closer to the edge of the tent when all that was going on, and the mattress was just being pushed up, like wrinkled up, and I didn't understand what the heck was going on until she told me the next day. But I know the terror that she was in, just the physical shaking, she was just shaking like a leaf. And I couldn't understand why it was as bad as it was until she told me what had happened. She wanted me to be quiet. She didn't want me to make a sound. She didn't want me to move. I mean, she was very, very upset and very shaken.
I hate to play the man card here, but when we have our spouses with us, we feel a little bit more protective, a little bit more, eye-opening to the scenario and the surroundings, because number one, we feel that it's a part of us to make sure everybody is safe. My buddy Mark was like that this past weekend for our team out there. He was like the Papa Bear out there, making sure that we were all safe and sound, until he had this real look of concern on his eyes that I'd never seen before, where he's like, we need to go and we need to go now.
Yeah.
Pack. You know, for you, knowing what happened to Jackie, and let's explain to our audience who may not have listened last night.
Yeah.
By the way, if you go to any of our free archives, you can on any major podcast network or on YouTube to hear the story. Let's hear from your perspective what happened that night. Take us from the beginning right to the incident.
Okay, so this is what transpired. Jackie and I met about 4 years ago on Facebook and got to talking about good places to take, to go to do Bigfoot hunting. And my spot is somewhere I've never been before, but somehow I knew that I needed to go there to do Bigfoot, research or look for evidence of Bigfoot. I don't know what drew me to this area on Google Earth, but right next to Mount Adams, down towards the south end of Mount Adams. And I just felt it. Like sometimes, you feel a spot out and you just kind of get called to it. So we finally get to go, to this location, and we drive up there, and we actually got turned around several times trying to get to a location where we could see the mountain, but we kept having to drive around another way because of snow, because some of the area that we wanted to get into, seeing from Google Earth, is actually, native land, and you can't drive on native land. And I didn't want to, do any of that or get in trouble for it. So it ended up putting us right back where, 4 years ago, we decided this is where we're going to go. So, we set up camp. I have what's called a tensile tent, and basically it's off the ground and it's supported by 3 trees. So I put that up. I put, another tent up for us to change in and to go to the bathroom and that sort of thing. And then I had another shelter over the, where we cooked all our meals and stuff like that. But as soon as we got there, Dave, it was crazy. We started unloading the gear and we would hear like knocks and different things. And I said, hey, Jackie, do you think I should just do a Bigfoot howl, just a howl, just to see what kind of, or actually it was a whoop, to see what I might get in return. She goes, yeah, go ahead. Just give it a go. And I whooped. And then like, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds later, we heard a whoop back in my same voice. And that was crazy. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. We're getting activity. So we're just going to, keep doing this and having a good day. Tried to set up to broadcast a couple of times, but there were so many trees around the area that we were in that I couldn't get a good signal. From Starlink, there was just too many trees. And so we had to bag that. Okay, we're not gonna go live that night. But I set up cameras to view over the mountain. And then I set up trail cameras, like 6 trail cameras and a couple listening devices, a couple, and a parabolic mic. So I had all this gear spread out all over the place to capture, whatever it was that hopefully would come near camp. And we put out, like gifting, we put out bananas and apples and that sort of thing, and then glow in the dark marbles and with trail cameras on that stuff. But I'll tell you, the whole day we kept hearing like little whispers and chatter and rock clacks and tree knocks. I mean, it was just insane. I've never been to a place that was that active ever, never. And Jackie was saying pretty much the same thing. Now it gets weird. Okay. It starts getting really crazy. Once it gets dark, I've got a small handheld thermal camera that I had with me, Leopold, and I'm pointing it down the road and I see something down at the end of the road. And I'm like, what the heck is that? It's shaped just like a body, just, with the head and the wide shoulders and the arms hanging down by its side and the legs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think, Jackie, this is a Bigfoot that's standing down at the end of the road that we can't see with our eyes because it's too dark, but we're capturing it on the thermal camera. And so I'm hitting record and take pictures of this thing. We start walking down the road towards it, Dave.
Right.
And it starts to fade out, crouch down and then move, and we start backing up, and then it comes back up. It stands back up. And I'm like, holy crud. I can't believe
Hold on
it.
a second there. Hold on a second there, because when we had our Sasquatch encounter up here in 2022, our big guy, we caught him standing there, much like you did, and then he crouched down. But after he crouched down, he never stood back up. We don't know to this day how he left. We would have seen him.
Exactly. And we backed up a little bit, and then he reappeared, right? So then we start walking and filming and recording, taking the still pictures and whatnot as we're heading towards him. And I start saying, hey there, hello, like that and stuff. And what's funny, I'll have to tell you, we got some evidence, other than the pictures that we got a hello back. But it sounds like it's kind of in my voice again. And,
what does that feel like when you hear something you don't know is there, and it is mimicking you and the tone of your voice?
Well, it's really interesting, and I really didn't have a whole lot of fear at the time. It seemed like they were more interested in us and what we had going on, with all that equipment that we had out everywhere, tripods and all kinds of stuff, right? We're not the usual campers in this location, but it felt, Dave, like they were really interested in what we were doing. The way that and then, how it mimicked my voice, it made me want to know more. It made me, I was completely intrigued by that. And, I wanted to go back the following week, but I couldn't find anybody to go with me. It's something I'll never forget. And I hope to God that when we go back that we have similar activity. But like I'm gonna step back to when I was filming with the FLIR. We get down there and it fades out, and we get all the way down towards the end of the road, and it's completely gone. By the time we got down there, just totally faded out and just disappeared. And I don't understand how that's possible. I look at everything. I try to look at everything rationally. I look for UFOs. That's how I got started in this paranormal thing, right? And it's tangible there, with a UFO, it's tangible. There's a structure or there's a light and it's coming from somewhere. But when things fade out in front of your face like that, I don't have an explanation. I thought to myself, Bigfoot was a flesh and blood creature, that I could understand. And now I don't think so. I think it's something totally different, something I'm not aware of. So it's paradigm shifting for me. The things that happened that night really changed my mind about how this all works. And yeah, that's my goal, is to try to figure something out.
All right. So this little incident where pervert Sasquatch decides to grope your girlfriend, you didn't know it was happening, and yet here she was right beside you. What did you think was going on as this Sasquatch was literally shoving its arm underneath your tent to get a feel of Jackie's ankles, legs, squeezed her butt, her back, her shoulders, her neck?
Yeah. Well, we went back to camp after that, and actually the activity kind of quieted down. So I'm like super tired because I spent all day trying to mess with the gear, trying to get signal and cooking dinner and all of that. And I was just like, it's time. I need to either go to bed or whatever. And I know that she was kind of upset about that. She told me the next day that I shouldn't have gone to bed or whatever. But we did. We went to bed.
I don't know how you did either, because when I'm in the wilderness, man, that fresh air in the forest is like being in a Las Vegas casino. It hypes me right up.
Yeah. I get that. I know. I don't have an explanation for why I was as tired as I was, other than I set up camp and did all that stuff that day. But she helped as well. But anyway, so we were in the tent, and I heard what sounded like a log that had been thrown into camp, and it was a big thud when it hit the ground. And now I'm like, okay, that was really interesting, and then, of course, there was a little bit of chatter and some footsteps that were like walking around the perimeter of camp that we heard. And then there's one of the straps that run off the back of the tent got hit with something. Now, I don't know if it was a branch or if it was a Sasquatch arm or whatever, but it shook the whole darn tent. And, it was freaking Jackie out. She didn't want to be in that darn thing. She wasn't comfortable being in that tent in the first place. But, for whatever reason, I was, as calm as could be while all this was going on. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to sleep. And it doesn't make sense to me why I was so nonchalant about everything that was happening. And I was just okay with going to sleep. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't compute with me. So I don't know what came over me in that instance. And then all of a sudden I couldn't get comfortable. I was like, what is going on with the mattress? It's getting pushed up. I mean, it's getting pushed up and it's got like a roll in it. And I'm like, what the heck is going on with the mattress all of a sudden? And I'm trying to adjust and I'm moving around and Jackie's poking at me. She's going, shut up, stop moving, just as quiet as she possibly could. She is totally freaking out. And I'm like, I blew an air horn, just a couple minutes earlier, thought that would scare whatever it was away after it hit the strap. But apparently it was right there next to the tent, right next to us, like right next to me, like probably an inch or two away from me, that thin piece of fabric between us. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I didn't realize what it was that was making the mattress do that. I couldn't understand it. So I'm rolling on top of that, trying to push it back down, trying to adjust the mattress. And she's just freaking out, trying to get me to stop and be still, completely still. And it lasted for maybe, 20 seconds or whatever. That bump would just roll. And I'm like, man, and I just rolled my hip over again. And I'm bouncing on the thing, whatever it is, on that roll, trying to get it to flatten out. And she is totally freaking out about it. And that was crazy. She didn't understand what I was doing at that moment. Why I was trying to get things situated and flattened back out and whatever. But we talked about it the next day and found out what happened to her. And I was definitely, I understood why she was in so much terror. I mean, I tried to calm her down, Dave. I tried to do everything that I could in that moment when she was shaking like a leaf and she was so scared. Hey, honey, I'm here. You're okay. But nothing was helping her. I mean, it was.
Well, when you get violated by that,
yeah,
and she has been in love with chasing down Sasquatch her entire life.
Right.
It's kind of a disappointment. I know you get that, and I get that too. We're going to continue this amazing story with Lee Strauss, Sasquatch at Mount Adams in Washington State. I got to go to that place, man. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy. We're clear.
Yeah.
Freaky, man.
Yeah, it is, but why was I so just nonchalant about the whole thing and wanted to go to sleep? I just don't, I can't understand that. And I don't know if it was some sort of infrasound that was affecting me in that way. I have no idea. I mean, activity was going on all around us, and we've got evidence of the stuff that happened. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Totally crazy.
I don't get it. It's, being an abductee and knowing how things happen when you're taken or when you're going to get taken. There was some similarity there, I think, maybe with the way I felt, and I just needed to go to sleep no matter what. I just don't really know.
I don't know either. I don't know.
Don't get it.
I know what happened after us.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it was, how can I put it? It was freaky.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make you feel very comfortable.
Yeah, we felt that way on our third night once we moved locations.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I don't even know how to put it, man. I'm still rattled. I am still rattled.
Yeah. I think you were probably affected by infrasound in some manner.
Well, I know originally, like today, I posted on my Facebook page a picture of the staff that they had left for Merle.
Yeah.
And every time I look at that now, I'm noticing something different. Like today, I was realizing, when you pick up a stick in the woods, what does it have on it? It has sharper points where branches once hung off of it. This thing didn't have any.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let me see if I can quickly bring it up here. Hold on. Oh, yeah. I got it right here. All right. Let me share screen. Is that one? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I know it's hard to see, but that is the photo of the staff. I can't zoom in, guys, so don't ask me to zoom in. But the bottom part of it had fresh dirt on it, and it was turned, rotated like it was just freshly pulled out of the ground. It's 7 feet tall, or approximately. There are no nubs on it where branches could be. We had just gone through a torrential downpour with thunder and lightning. 45 minutes prior to that, and that was a storm that lasted about an hour.
Yeah.
That stick was dry.
Wow.
No water on it. I think what happened in this case was we had one walk through camp. We found a 17-inch track while we were gone from camp for 20 minutes. When we got back, we found the 17-inch track. Well, Mark did. And then in that area where we found the staff, that staff was leaning against a tree where in 2018, Merle was scared out of there by a Sasquatch. And I'm wondering now if it's the same Sasquatch that maybe gave a peace offering in trade because it recognized Merle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. Give me 2 seconds here. Thank you to Camille, T-Bone ×2, Deborah Rooney, and Trucker Andrew for the super chat. Yes, Merle has the staff. Yes, he does. It's at his house. Here we go. Actually, we got about another 7 seconds. We did make a trade. We left something there back because you just don't take. You have to give something back. Here we go. Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're doing something different. We're continuing this Sasquatch story. Lee Strauss and Jackie Harman's story from a couple weekends ago at Mount Adams in Washington State. Yeah. Very interesting. Very intriguing. I know it's supposed to be UFO report night, but we'll get to Lee momentarily about this. If you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. You can also download this show for free on any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We're talking about a weird incident with Sasquatch with Lee Strauss, where him and his research partner / girlfriend, Jackie Harman, both involved with Spaced Out Radio, were camping on Mount Adams in Washington State about 10 days ago now.
Mm-hmm.
They had the encounter of a lifetime. Lee, let's go back there. Jackie gets groped.
Yes. Well, let me explain that.
Please do.
Yeah. So what she had told me, and from what I could feel, most likely I was feeling the forearm of the Bigfoot at the time. Its arm was underneath the tent. And it was just going like this with her, like feeling her leg and then her hip. And she said that hand was just massive, like had no problem reaching around, her hip and squeezing her hip and her leg as it was feeling up her body and then back down and then up again. And what I felt was just let me see if you can see, just like the forearm part of the Sasquatch underneath me as it was grabbing onto her and feeling her. It never touched the next morning when we finally got out of the tent. It didn't touch any of our stuff, nothing. Even the marbles that we had put out, all my camera gear and tripods and nothing. It touched nothing but us. It was only interested in us and in nothing else. Not the food that we put out, nothing whatsoever. When we got up that morning, we looked around camp, couldn't find any footprints. We were looking for the log that got thrown into camp, and we couldn't find anything other than the logs that were already there. So there was no added material. The only thing that we could think of at that time was maybe the log that was there, it picked up and slammed back down in the same location. So yeah, there was that, but there was no hair on the strap where, we got hit, where the strap got hit of the tent. There was nothing that we could see. The day prior, we found footprints, in the weeds by inside the creek, because there's less long, tall, like bear grass in the creek and just outside the creek. And you could see the footprints clear as day going right through there. And then on the other side as well, there was a footprint, a juvenile footprint and an adult footprint. And then the tree structures that we came across and other stuff. But that's just the craziest thing, that I've ever experienced, and why I felt it was okay to go to sleep after that happened. I have no idea. And she was awake all night long, terrified out of her mind.
No, you can't blame her.
No.
And I'll be honest, one thing that Jackie said to me last night when I had her on the show was that she was kind of, looking back at it now, a little upset about the way that she handled that, because she has been waiting for an interaction like that. Maybe not that specific one, but a close encounter interaction with a Sasquatch her entire life. Since her dad started taking her out, I believe at 5 years old or something like that.
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
4 years old. And I think she's a little upset with the fact of the way she reacted to it, or the encounter that happened. Now, I'm speaking for her. I don't mean to, but just the way the image or the perception that I got last night was that she's still a little upset with herself regarding, like, that may never happen again. That interaction may never happen.
Right. Yeah. We both went away from this experience, saying to each other, we should have done this. We should have done that. We should have, and this and that and the other thing. And, I shouldn't have went to sleep. Why did I, I don't, it doesn't make any sense to me what all the things that transpired to get us to this spot that where we finally get to go, like after 4 years of wanting to go to this location and finally go and have this experience. And then it's just like, well, I'll go to sleep and, and she gets groped and all this stuff happens. And we came away with it, Dave, knowing this, that if it wanted us out of there, if it did not want us there, it could have trashed my equipment. It could have screamed at us. It could have done a lot of things to scare us away. But Dave, I really do think that it wanted interaction with us. And it was upset that we went into the tent. We should have stayed out. We should have kept trying to communicate with it as it was communicating with us.
I agree with you. I agree. I mean, they didn't want to shut down any type of conversation.
Right.
You can shut it down.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, hey, we're at the nightclub here. We're supposed to be hitting on each other, and you're out of here. You're not doing anything. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they wanted us back out of the tent. That's the feeling we get. They wanted us back out and wanted to chat or whatever they wanted to do from the wood line, and where they would have felt safe. And
what do you think would have happened if you would have unzipped the tent?
Oh, I wanted to, Dave. In fact, I tried several times, but Jackie wouldn't have it. She was like, no, we're staying in here. This is where, it's safest at the moment, because she didn't want me to get taken or any of that and then her be alone. I carry a gun with me as well. It's not just an air horn that I take with me out there. So, I was fully prepared, and it didn't even concern me one bit that I could go outside. I had no fear. There was nothing like that. Even though after the stuff that had happened, I had zero concern, which doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, I was concerned about her and her state, but I just didn't have a fear at all for some odd reason.
Weird.
Until the third night. The third night I had fear. Yeah.
So weird.
Definitely.
Jackie was saying that the next time that she goes out there with you, she would much prefer a motorhome rather than a tent.
Yeah.
And B, to have more of a group for safety.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I wouldn't go back in that tent, I don't think, just because of how easy it is for something to get around it and manhandle you, or whatever the case may be. The concern was that she'd get pulled through the tent. That's what she was really scared about. And that, and then having the tent fall on the ground and hurting herself and her back. She didn't, that was a great concern at the time as well. But yes, absolutely, a motorhome would be good. You can rent one and go out there and set up shop for 2 nights or 3 nights or whatever. And we would love to go back out there and do that. She would feel comfortable in a tent that's on the ground, but definitely not the tensile. Yeah.
Then you guys move camp,
Mm-hmm.
and the aliens come.
Yeah, that's right. We moved to another location and where we had a better view of the mountain itself. And she wakes up in the middle of the night with this bright light that just appeared over the tent and lit the tent up completely, like it was daylight. Brighter than daylight is what she had said. And she was nudging me, "Hey, get up, you got to see this." And I was mumbling something or whatever. And, and I was kind of awake for a little bit, and then she has missed time during this episode where she asked me what time it was. And I think it was like 12:40 or something like that. And then she tried to wake me up again. And I look at my phone and it's like 5 something in the morning, and I'm like, what the heck? She goes, "Yeah, the light was just here. You should have seen it. It flashed above the tent real bright and then it just disappeared again." And I'm like, I have no idea. She says that she couldn't wake me up for anything during that. She said it was like 5 minutes or something is what it seemed like to her, but she could not wake me up between the time where it flashed the first time and the second time. So quite possibly we have some missing time with that episode. And that night when we set up camp, it was just the tent, that we slept in and just the stuff we needed to cook the food. We didn't set up any trail cameras, any equipment that night, nothing. And, now I kick myself for not setting up something, to be able to watch our camp at night. But yeah, so I don't know why. Once again, I was pretty well drained after packing up all the equipment and getting to this new spot that we had found and getting things unpacked. It was about 40 miles away from our previous spot from the previous night.
So when the missing time happened,
yeah,
were you asleep? What went on? Because Jackie claimed last night, and I fully believe her, that she saw that second light, and then when she asked you about it, she stated that it was only 5 minutes from the last light.
Yeah.
But you were saying it was now 4 hours later or 5 hours later at 5:30 in the morning.
Right. Exactly. What happened between the time, the first flash and the second flash? I have no idea. I think she said that I grumbled something about narcolepsy or something like that. I said something. But I really, I'm kind of really hazy on that, she couldn't wake me up for nothing.
So here you are missing all the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't have any explanation for why that is. I know that, when I go to bed, wherever I'm at home or wherever the case may be, I really don't have a problem falling asleep. I could probably fall asleep in 15 seconds. That easy for me.
And yet here you are. Do you think then that this experience with the close encounter Sasquatch, with the UFOs, and the potential missing time that Jackie had, do you think that weekend wasn't about you, but about you getting her there for her to have these incredible encounters?
Very well may be the case. Very well. You know, Dave, I've felt like I've been called before to Mount Baker, you know, and Mount Adams before, and have had some crazy, you know, videoed some crazy stuff, you know. I don't ever recall having missing time, but I'm always taken at night. She could, you know, their whole plan, whoever they are, definitely could have been, let's get her down there, you know, and you know, show her, you know, what's up or whatever the case may be. But yes, I definitely agree. She played a major part in this, big time. Even, you know, I could say well bigger than I did.
Right. You were just a conduit to get her there.
Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like.
Let me rephrase that. You're not really an emotional guy. You never get too high. You never get too low.
Mm-hmm.
You do look more ripped when you're wearing your extra small shirt on your large body.
No, yeah, I'm got a loose one on today.
But my question to you is, emotionally, how are you with everything?
I feel like crud, to tell you the truth. I feel horrible. I feel like I let Jackie down in a lot of ways, and it's upsetting. Just because, you know, of the stuff that happened during the first night, you know, and how nonchalant I was, just like, well, I'm going to go to sleep, you know, and it's like I didn't have a care. I do this sort of thing all the time with my partners. I'll go out and we'll watch the skies till 3 o'clock in the morning and then drive home. You know, that's common for me. What happened out there with Jackie? I have no explanation for why I felt like I needed to go to sleep. I don't understand that. And when you say maybe the thing is to get her down there, that totally makes sense to me. It wasn't about me. It was about Jackie.
I think that's the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that's the way it was. And I think that, you know, the way you kind of look at it, it had to be that way. It's like in our situation, that footprint that we found 10 minutes or 10 feet from our tent, it wasn't there 20 minutes previous. And then to find the staff leaning on a tree where in 2018, Merle had been chased out of the forest by one about 20 feet away from him that was hunting, or, you know, huffing and puffing and growling and stomping and shaking tree branches. I think that was a peace offering. Like, hey, I remember you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm leaving this for you now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does feel like we're being called back. And we definitely want to go, and, you know, we got to go back this year for sure. Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get down there with you, man.
You're definitely welcome to. Definitely.
I am already laying the seeds.
Good.
Laying the seeds, you know, and vice versa. I want to get you up. I want to get you up to our area too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. Okay. So between where I live and where Mount Adams is, it's about, as the airplane flies, about 400 miles.
Right.
Okay. It's about an 8 to 9 hour drive to get there from where I live. Maybe 10. It's a long way.
Yeah.
But it's amazingly how similar the creatures act. 500 miles, 400, 500 miles apart.
Yeah. Well, this is a conduit. You know, the whole Cascade Range is a conduit for this stuff that goes on. You know, I've seen it with the UFO stuff, and now I've seen it with the Bigfoot stuff, the Bigfoot phenomenon as well. So for whatever reason, it's a spot where there's a lot of high strangeness going on.
But don't you think it's a little ironic that, I mean, you guys are involved, and I'm not trying to stir up stuff here or make things up, but you and Jackie are now part of the SOR family.
Yep.
The SOR family was out filming this past weekend. You guys have it the weekend before. That seems a little coincidental that all of this stuff happened all at once.
Yeah, it does seem very coincidental. I mean, what are the odds that you would have planned time off for this, for your thing, and we would have planned over 4 years, to do this and go to this location, and we finally get there? I mean, just that alone by itself, without the paranormal stuff that happened, is a great coincidence, or maybe not, right? So there you go.
I don't even know how to take it anymore, man. I don't even know how to even try and structure what's happened, and the fact that those creatures around you, same as the creatures around us, if they wanted to kill us, they could have easily done it.
Easily.
They could have easily done it, but they chose not to. And that's why I think we're dealing with some high intelligence. They just may not be familiar on how to truly communicate with what we are doing. Lee, thank you for sharing the story on Spaced Out Radio. I know you got to get off to bed here because you get up early for work, but a big thank you for coming on and telling your side of the story. We're going to do it all again very, very soon. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, my man, we're clear.
Good. No work for me tomorrow. So
you're not working tomorrow?
No, it's the 4th of July, man. We're good.
Shoot, yes. Happy 4th of July, America.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy 4th of July. May your hot dogs be full of ketchup. May you watch some good baseball. May you wear that American flag, that beautiful American flag. Wave it proudly. Don't worry about the politics. Just be proud of your beautiful nation that you are. Fucking love America. I do. I don't give a shit what anybody says. As an outsider, I love America. I do.
Yeah. Good times here in the U.S., that's for sure. Just as much paranormal activity down here as you got up there.
You got that right, my man. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I talked to Mark and I talked to Merle today.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, dude. I'm getting better, but up till yesterday and early morning today, I was still rattled. I was still quite rattled by what happened.
Yeah. Jackie's still
Right.
rattled. I mean, we
Yeah, I
talk
know.
about it daily.
I know she is. And, you know, um,
Her
I know for
willingness.
us, it's a matter of getting over that. It's a matter of getting over that, that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That, in my opinion, yes, it was time for us to go, but hindsight 2020, Dave would have really liked to walk into that forest with the camera and a flashlight,
Mm-hmm.
to say, all right, I'm here. Show me. I would have been holding my FLIR, camera would have been rolling, and I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Except I checked out. And probably for safety reasons, it was probably a good thing. But
you have to go with your gut.
But you know what? It goes to show too that those of us who are in this field, we say we're brave enough, but do we really take that chance? Okay. Do we really like I'll be honest with you. If there's a ghost in the room, okay, that's being an idiot, throwing shit around or whatever, I'll go in there. It doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But Sasquatch doesn't scare me. It doesn't. The idea of the unknown scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does. It really freaks me out. I don't know how I would have done in that situation with you guys. And I haven't told Jackie this, but this isn't the first time I've heard that story.
Yeah. I've heard similar stories.
I actually had during our ghost tour, we used to stop for a 20-minute break in the middle of the tour at the old schoolhouse. And in the schoolhouse, this was a time for us to share stories about why we got into this, and people would share their stories. And this one lady kept nudging her husband, tell him the story. He's like, no, he doesn't want to hear it. And she belts out to me, my husband has a Bigfoot story. And I'm like, oh yeah, hell yes, I want to hear that. And he was 18 years old, camping with his buddy between, just north of Whistler. And they had an encounter with a Sasquatch that to this day, it had scared him. And him and his buddy were in the tent. The Sasquatch put its arms underneath the tent and started lifting the tent up. And these boys woke up to going in the air. They could hear the pins coming out of the ground like a pew, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
You hear it all. Right?
Wow.
And so with that, and then hearing Jackie's story about what happened to you guys, the Sasquatch, when they started reeling around, the Sasquatch gently put them back down.
Huh. Crazy.
Right? Didn't go Albert Ostman on them.
Yeah. Probably
right?
probably, if I think about it, I would think that maybe he just didn't want the tent in that area. He probably didn't realize there was people in it until they started moving around.
Yeah. I don't know what it was, dude. I don't know what it was. But, as I said in we did these little closing interviews, and I kind of ended it with, I never expected, or I never felt what it was like to be the hunted.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the end of our night there, we were the hunted.
Yeah, that's the way we felt too. Sunday night, you know, when we were actually, it was Saturday night that we left. So yeah, we felt the same way. Like there's something that's coming for us. It's coming for us. You just feel it in the air. Like how
Did you have any trail cams or anything set up while that was happening?
Yes, that night we did. Saturday night we did have trail cameras set up. We had the parabolic mic again, a bunch of cameras set up as well. And we did capture that night. We did capture a UFO on video going down towards Mount Adams. But in that location, it wasn't as active as the first night as far as the Bigfoot were concerned. There was a couple tree knocks and just a little bit of stuff. We were going to set up the tent in this one area, and Jackie says, no, we're not setting a tent up in there. I do not want to be in the trees right there. And I figured that she knew something I didn't at that point in time. So we put the regular tent out in the field, and we slept it in the field. You know, when somebody says something, you got to listen. You know.
Intuition plays a huge part in the forest. A huge part. And I don't care who you are, whether you believe in intuition or psychic ability or whatever it may be. We were all on point that day. I felt the creature at first. We moved past that, and somebody else picked up the feeling of a bear. And when we look down, there's fresh bear markings, fresh bear footprints. Could hear it in the shallow trees. Okay. Like if you're not trusting your judgment in the forest on whether you can go forward or it's time to go back, you're just asking for trouble. I don't care how brave you are.
Right.
You're asking for trouble.
There is one other piece of information that I just remembered, and I want to talk about that real quick. When we were headed back, this is the first night when we were headed back onto the road, Dave, to go down to where the road was, where we were camped on. There was bark from a tree that looked like it had melted off the tree, and I've never ever seen bark look like that ever. That just totally looked like it was melted at the base of the tree. I've never seen anything like that ever. And we've got video of it. It was rolled. It was like it was rolled up, like it had gotten hot and just slipped off the tree.
Man, it's crazy. Just crazy. Do you know if any of your trail cams yet caught that Sasquatch?
From what we saw, the stuff that Jackie and I went over as far as the trail cameras are concerned, we did not. It does not look like we caught anything. However, I need to go through and dissect and scrub the video. Just on first glance, it doesn't look like it. But you know, that night we heard this click. And like, what the heck is that? You know, we're just click, click. And one of the cameras that was facing off where that log had come from and been thrown down, at least that's where it sounded like, that camera was off. And that's where the click, click came from. So we theorized that possibly they got into that camera and turned it off.
Paramarv is asking, Lee, Jax mentioned last night urinating in a baggie and dropping it outside the tent. Was it there when you later got out, or was it taken by your visitor?
No, it was there. The baggie was still there in the morning, and her pajamas were there too. Yeah. And then yeah, she was just so frightened, Dave, you know, at the time. But, you know, the fact that she's willing to go back there, you know, even after all of that, and she wants to fiercely, you know, that shows me and should show people that, you know, she's got some kahunas. Definitely.
Wow. Did you find footprints around your camp?
Earlier that day, before we had gone to bed, when we were filming around camp, we did find footprints. Like I said, in that marshy area down below, through all the grass. I mean, you could see it. It was plain as day. Like they just had walked right through that marsh, and then there was like another path, maybe of a smaller, younger Bigfoot as well, that had, you know, walked through there side by side, is what it looked like to me. And then on the other side where the tree structures were, there was a big, you know, a bigger footprint. We probably around 15, 16 inches, and then a smaller one as well. So it felt like there was a family there around us the entire time.
We were getting a family as well. Like we felt like the parents were introducing the kids to humans.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
It was, you know, just their chatter too. I mean, you know, and we've got some of that audio as well. I mean, that we have a lot of stuff that we would like to share on Friday night with everybody on our show, Element 115 on Spaced Out Radio at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9.
That's good promo right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound like Ric Flair. This Friday night, Charlotte, North Carolina. Be there.
No kidding.
Man, I wish I was there with you guys, man. And vice versa. I wish you guys were up with us when we were having that stuff happen.
Yeah, but you know, I might have just laid down on the ground and gone to sleep in an extra small shirt.
Of course you have the extra small shirt on. What the hell are you going to be doing? Right?
Yeah. But I was bundled up pretty good. It was cold out there at night, you know. It was warm during the day, but cold at night. And
I fell asleep that first night. The zipper, well, first off, I'm a little chunky, as you know. Samantha gets me a sleeping bag that is made for a bloody pencil. Okay. I blow out the zipper that first night.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And because when I don't have my CPAP on, I'm a real tosser and turner. And, excuse me. And so the second night, I was frozen that night. I got up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I didn't care what the hell was around me. It was sunshine out, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I just was like, okay, I got to get a jacket on. I went to bed in a t-shirt.
Oh.
Right. And I was like, I got to get a jacket on. The second night we stayed out there, our cameraman Richie, he stayed up all night, and look at Jax here kicking ass. Just letting everyone know I will be going back out there, and yes, women do belong out there looking for Bigfoot. I'm Jackie Harman, and you're not. No? Get the fuck out of here. I'll take a steel chair to Bigfoot the next time he tries to pinch my bum without any warning whatsoever. You bring it, Bigfoot. I'll bring the steel chair. You bring the rocks, and we'll get it onto the steel cage in the octagon. You bring it, you bastard. Oh, yeah. I can totally see that. Sorry, I'm like totally into wrestling mode right now.
Yeah. Well, apparently, from what I understand, you've got the mask, right? The wrestling mask.
I don't have a mask.
You don't?
No, I would.
Oh,
Now there's this idiot who breaks into my house every now and again.
there it
yell
is,
off.
right there.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, he literally, he's an asshole. That guy.
That's what I understand.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't me. It ain't me.
Okay. Okay.
No, not me. I would never do that to people.
Yeah.
Never.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Joe Bunk. This is just for Jackie in our store. A pair of sweatpants with a Bigfoot handprint on the butt.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely needed. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'd even buy a pair of those, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It'd probably just reach all the way around your waist, though, almost.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. See if we can find Jackie's wrestling name. Translate to Spanish. All right. Not French to Spanish, English to Spanish. The hell do I want French to Spanish for?
The Harmonator.
All right. Her wrestling name would be La Cazadora Pete Grande. The Bigfoot Huntress. Right there. La Cazadora Pete Grande. I probably didn't say that right. I don't speak Spanish, so for those of you who do, I apologize for butchering your beautiful language.
Well,
The funny part about it is Jackie's laughing.
Yeah, that would have to go on the sweatpants as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
La Cazadora P. Grande. I'm going to have to... we're going to have to get her a wrestling mask. Mm-hmm.
She would love it. She would absolutely love it.
Hold on. She wrote something here. La Cazador. It's spelled like this. Let me just copy it here. This is the way it's spelled. La Cazadora P. Grande. Because I don't think it's Pi Grande. It would be P. Grande, I believe. Or Pe Grande. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
We always talk about coming on the show with some sort of outfit or this or that to make things interesting. So she would definitely wear a wrestling mask onto the show.
I would hope so.
Yeah, just to make it interesting.
Yeah.
She's definitely cool like that. So.
Oh, hell yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm.
You two are a good couple.
Yeah, we jive really well.
Besides your fetish for tiny shirts, you two are a good couple.
I think that comes from her though, because she wants me to wear tight shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't
she likes it.
With that. You know what I look like when I wear a tight shirt? I look like if somebody went and took a large shirt and put it over top of a wine barrel.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow.
It hurts, man. Mm-hmm. But I'm going down. I'm still losing a little bit of weight.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. hopefully, next year when we have our SOR party, you'll be looking trim and ready to rock.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I have faith. You are the man.
Oh, it's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. La Casa Dora Pi Grande. Is it P or Pi? Jack's Wookie Cookie. That's a little is. Hold on. Look at Jack's Wookie Cookie is still bruised from the groping. Oh, you know how bad that sounds right now, Jackie? Seriously.
Oh, she knows. She knows.
Oh yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a good shirt. Wookie Cookie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some SOR underwear for the ladies that say Wookie Cookie.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's been talking about the Wookie Cookie for a long time now.
Oh, if that's hers, I'm not stealing it. I'm not stealing it.
I think she would allow that. She would.
Oh,
She'd be down.
Wookie Cookie.
Mm-hmm.
How many of our ladies in the chat room would want Wookie Cookie undies from the SOR? Oh my God. Tribute to Jackie Harman.
Yep, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Well, our plan is we will be going back out there to that location. I'm going to take a buddy or two of mine out there. I've got some things of Jackie that I'm going to be taking out there as well. So at least that smell is there. And then we have the audio too, right? So I've got her speaking and talking, and I can take that out there and play it on a speaker and see if we get any response.
Jackie wants the undies. Gailey wants the undies. Yeah. And I think Wookie Cookie would look a lot better than my face on women's panties. That's for sure. My God. Because we got those.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them. I like them.
Mm-hmm. I've worn them. I like them.
My favorite, though, is the shoes. I love the kicks. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Totally.
Those are awesome. Sovereign, give me a second here. Sovereign farts. You got to go rip some ass in the toilet and get out of the chat room for a while again, man. Everything we do, you're shooting down. Everything we talk about, you're shooting down. Who pissed in your cornflakes? Because you're obviously on the toilet taking a shit. Who pissed in your cornflakes while you're eating on the toilet? Seriously. If we can't do anything right, why are you here? Sorry, I'm not trying to be sensitive, but I'm just everything we do, you keep shooting down like we don't know what we're talking about or don't know what we're doing. Like, seriously, brother. If we're not doing anything right, why the frick are you here?
Good night, Paranormal Pixie.
I need a haircut. I'm starting to get like Corey Hart hair.
Yeah, I got to do the same, except I've got less on top.
You got that Les Stroud look. Lee Strauss, Les Stroud. I mean, you both wear extra small men's shirts. You know?
People have confused me for Les Stroud. It happens quite often.
Extra tight pants to fit the curvature of your manly buttocks.
From one thing to another, I guess, Let's keep bringing it. Next, I'll be wearing tight socks or something, or who knows what.
Oh my God. It's terrible.
It's good stuff. It's fun. It's fun. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Feel like a flock of seagulls out there right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. See if I can make it stand up.
I don't think your hair has calmed down because of the weekend that you had. It's still sticking up from there.
No, it's not. It hasn't been pretty. I'm not gonna lie. It hasn't been pretty. You know, I had to come home and wash my hair. Screwed up my entire hair schedule because usually I wash on Mondays and Fridays. You know, and then I had to wash it on a Sunday because you just got all that outdoor stuff and bug spray and stuff.
That's the worst. Oh, that's the worst too. The bug spray in your hair. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Just sticky with it.
Oh yeah. You end up feeling sticky and gross.
Yeah. It's horrible.
But I don't know. Maybe it was a good day to start my gray dreads. I don't know.
I don't think I want to see that.
Me either.
Don't know what it is.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. All right, buddy. We're going to call it the night.
All right.
Thank you for coming on in, man, and telling your side of the story. I absolutely love it. And you know what? We'll do it again soon, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
All right, brother. The rest of you Wookie cookies out there, tomorrow night on the show, Chris Rukowski is going to join us to talk about the updated Canadian UFO story and UFOs in the U.S. that you guys love calling UAPs, you sick bastards. All right. And, thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Deborah Rooney, Andrew, and Camille for our great super chats. Much love to you all. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.